yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Yeah, we ran out of patience. Boil up with the cold hard hatred. I can feel the vibration. Feet in the streets, it's a new sensation. I wanna break faces on the pavement. I wanna make greatness look complacent. Adrenaline awakened, I can taste it. We can make an impact, grab and then take it. Like a disease, bring them to their knees. No pain for their disease. Just like a weed.
On the seventh day, excuse me, it's not the seventh day. I keep on thinking it's Sunday. Meanwhile, it's Monday. And that was a botch and a fucking half. How about that? But regardless of that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm the one and only DJ Storms, and I would like to welcome each and every single one of you to a very special edition Monday stream. We are streaming live on 4 different platforms across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different accounts with a nice wide outreach, rock and rolling, getting down to the nitty and the gritty. I got a beautiful camera, a nice, perfectly sound microphone, and we are getting set to talk about some good old-fashioned pro wrestling, as of course, you already know who I am, Mr. Controversy, and the operator of the best damn Twitter handle known. Shit. Do you smell that? I don't think I really need to ask you what that is. Bro, what's that smell right there?
It's very reminiscent of pure fucking excellence.
Oh my God, it is pure fucking excellence. Wait for it. Wait for it. To mankind. And this is the official rewind for AEW WrestleDream 2023, which of course streamed live on Bleacher Report last night from Seattle, Washington, with the 0 hour starting at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Plenty of good material to discuss, but as you can see, I am not alone. I am not alone. Back with me, by popular demand, first time back since July, and the rewind for Ring of Honor, Death Before Dishonor. He's a loyal DJ Storms posse member. He is a lifelong wrestling fan, and he's been on my channel quite a few times in the last couple of months. Matter of fact, he's actually approaching his 1-year anniversary from when he made his debut on the channel. Please help me welcome back to the eye of the storm, Mr. HooliGrim. How you doing, brother?
What's going on, buddy? Thank you for having me, as always. Glad to be here. Getting ready to talk about what a great show last night was.
Yeah, I can see you're stealing my fucking gimmick already with these fucking sunglasses.
I gotta wear the sunglasses indoors, bro.
Yeah, you see, that's what I do to people. I bring out the best in them. I bring out the best in them style-wise and analytical-wise. Anyway, let me tell you something, man. Shows like WrestleDream, what we got last night, it really makes me very, very happy and very, very proud to be a professional wrestling fan. And they've been very, very up and down this year, has AEW. They have a string of very good shows, then they have a string of lackluster shows, and then they have a string of very good shows, back down to lackluster. They're up, they're down, they're all around. They're here, they're there, they're hither and yon. They're all over the place. They've been all over the place this year. There hasn't really been a sense of consistency, but the last couple of weeks, I felt as though they've really been working to get themselves back on the right track, and they've developed a nice, solid string of shows with All In and All Out and Dynamite, Collision, and Grand Slam going into WrestleDream. It seems as though Tony Khan is looking to rev some shit up, and that's exactly what we got with WrestleDream. People were bitching and moaning, complaining left and right, how there's not even 7,000 tickets sold for WrestleDream. And I hear all this fucking bullshit from all these brain dead idiots, these fucking mindless inbreds that want to throw their opinions and throw their 2 cents into the hat on social media, when in reality they don't deserve the oxygen that we breathe. People trying to base the quality of the show off of how many people attended the show, or how many people were actually watching the show, how many people ordered the show, when in reality, they don't focus on quality. They never focus on the quality that is actually given to us from bell to bell. They don't focus on the quality stories that are told both in and out of the ring. And I really think it's about time that people start acknowledging that when it comes to pay-per-views, when it comes to these major shows, when it comes to these special events, Tony Khan always delivers. The dude is untouchable. When it comes to these pay-per-views, the dude is absolutely untouchable. You can make the argument 3 match of the year candidates. Hell, you can make the argument even 4 match of the year candidates. Crowd was hot all night. Seattle actually may be one of my favorite wrestling crowds right now. And from top to bottom, man, dude, this show was spectacular. Absolutely spectacular shit from top to bottom, with probably in the main event, the greatest TNT championship match that we've ever seen. Christian Cage and what he's been doing with Luchasaurus has brought the TNT title back to where it needs to be, and probably one of the best debuts of the modern era, probably the best debut in AEW since when Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole came in legitimately at the same time a mere 2 years ago. Adam Copeland is now All Elite. From top to bottom, man, there was a couple of lull periods, especially on the 0 hour. Then again, you can't really judge a pay-per-view on the 0 hour. But for the most part, dude, this show was fantastic. I know that you're probably kicking yourself because you did not get tickets to the event, but give us your thoughts on the overall show.
Man, first off, I want to say Seattle, the fans of the Pacific Northwest did me so proud last night. They really brought the energy for most of those main card matches, and truly, yeah, just an epic night, like you were saying, as a pro wrestling fan. Also, just real quick, want to shout out in case they come by to watch. I know a few people were saying they were going to stop by, like MK3 Kratos, Devoted, some of my wrestling buddies that I chat with online. But yeah, Seattle was incredible. And dare I say, I mean, I'm not going to compare them and say that they're the same level as a Chicago or some of the New York crowds, but Seattle every time is right up there. They got to be put in the conversation for some of the best wrestling crowds in the game, in my opinion.
I'm very, very happy with what the crowd brought. You wouldn't have even realized that there was only 6,500 people in there. They sounded like 30,000 people. Loud. Yeah, they were loud.
They brought the energy. Most definitely. I'm really kicking myself because I was complaining on Twitter about the ticket prices a couple weeks ago, and then one of your loyalists, a buddy of mine, Jeremy Lewis, who's in the chat from time to time, he texted me on Friday night, I think, saying that they had lowered ticket prices down to like $35. And at that point, I'm like, well, I mean, it's kind of too late now. Or it might have been Saturday, actually. Saturday's when he texted me and said that the prices had been lowered. But at any rate, I will say this: had I gone to the show, I would have missed some epic commentary given by Nigel McGuinness and John Moxley last night. I really feel like John Moxley's got a future when he's done wrestling in commentary if he wants it, and him and Nigel playing off each other was awesome last night.
Nigel McGuinness may be the funniest commentator in the business right now. I loved his work back in NXT, especially in NXT UK. And when he just loses his shit, it's probably some of the funniest material that you will ever hear on commentary from any commentator, if we're going to be quite honest here. But we're going to get into the festivities here. We certainly got a lot to talk about. We're going to dissect everything in depth. But before we get into the matches, where can everyone find you on social media? Throw out some self-brand promotions.
My social media, I've not been on social media a lot recently. You can always find me on Twitter at HooliGrim, spelled WHO_LA_Grim. And also on TikTok, which is where I find myself most of the time as of late, I think it's still it's Who_LA_Grim on TikTok as well. If not, just type in HooliGrim with 2 R's and you can find me.
Yeah, I don't think I can bring myself to make a TikTok, man. It's just a sea of stupidity as it is on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I don't have any more social medias than I need to, because if I add more on top of what I already have, I swear to God, I feel like I may get consumed in that, and I don't want to get consumed in social media again. There was a period of my life where I was just so consumed in social media, like towards mid to end of 2019. I was just trying to escape from the fact that my grandfather passed away. I don't really want to go through that again. But I've managed myself pretty well ever since I got the full-time job with my accounting company that I'm a part of. But as of right now, for social medias, as far as I go, you can follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram at HistoryMakerDJS. Once again, that is at HistoryMakerDJS, both on Twitter and Instagram. You can also add me on Facebook. You can like the official DJ Storms business page, and I may just send you an invite to join the official DJ Storms Posse group on Facebook. That is. Check out all those links in the description. And then, of course, StormsTakeOver@gmail.com. Plenty of business inquiries to be had. I would like to send out a special thank you to ISPW for allowing me to be a part of 90s WrestleCon last Saturday. And, of course, the wonderful, and I mean the wonderful, ISPW 25-year anniversary. I will have that vlog up for you guys on Wednesday. If you guys missed the rewind for NXT No Mercy, which is actually a pretty solid show, you can go check that out right now. That is live on the channel as we speak. Set your notifications for Thursday, because I'll be going live on Thursday at 7:30 p.m. for the rundown for WWE Fastlane. And I hope that this momentum of really good wrestling shows that we have had continues into Fastlane, because Fastlane actually looks like a pretty solid card. And then on October 8th is the rewind for Fastlane. That is at 2 p.m. Then next Thursday, October 12th, me and Jay are coming back for World of Wrestling, episode number 2. And we got a couple of hot topics to talk about. We're going to go over WrestleDream for a little bit. We're going to go over Fastlane a little bit. We're going to talk about Adam Cole's injury. Is it a work or is it legit? We're also going to talk about Tiffany Stratton and the fact that she was buried by Becky Lynch, even though some people don't want to accept that. She was buried by Becky Lynch twice within the same month, might I add. And I'm going to have to educate Jay a little bit. Although I did meet him at 90s WrestleCon. He's a very nice guy, a very down-to-earth individual. I actually bought one of the trading cards from him, and it was a trading card of Shinsuke Nakamura from when he made his debut at NXT TakeOver Dallas. And there's a little piece of the ring canvas in the card. So I actually thought that was pretty damn nice. I got a good price out of that. So thank you very much, Jay, for taking the time to sell me a card and talk a little bit, take a picture. I look forward to meeting you and collaborating with you again. And hopefully we can get together for a nice steak dinner next month. I'm looking forward to some nice porterhouse steaks with a baked potato on the side. That's for sure. Of course.
Jay Leto, the whole reffing show, baby.
Damn right, man. Damn right. Please make sure that you go and like the stream if you're watching on X, Twitch, YouTube, or Facebook. Please make sure that you share it out on all platforms of social media, including Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, Tumblr, Snapchat, or TikTok, whatever social media platforms that you may be using, because that way we're going to get a nice wide outreach. I'm here. HooliGrim's here. We want to get a lot of people in this chat, and that way I can boost up the watch hours as well, because I'm trying to get monetized on YouTube as well. So please make sure you share out the stream on all platforms, social media. Please make sure that you hit the subscribe button when you come on in. If you're watching on YouTube, whether it be on my YouTube channel or the Hardcore Sports YouTube channel, it helps us out, it gives us more traction and more supporters. And of course, when you hit the subscribe button, you got to hit that notifications bell with a huge coup de grace, because that way you're going to know whenever I pop up on YouTube. Because whenever I pop up on YouTube, you know it's coming. Oh, baby, it is the best time to be on YouTube. Do you know why? Because it's the only time that you're going to get to see this oh so glorious sideburn chin strap combination and this beautiful mustache right here. Hang on, it's lodged away in my pocket somewhere. Where is it? Hold on. It's in here right there. There we go. This beautifully crafted magical ace black comb. And it's time to light it up right here on the Rewind on a Monday, because I make Mondays better. Everyone needs a bit of DJ Storms in their life. It is a known fact that whenever I come into your life becomes 1,000 times better. So we're going to light it up right here on the Rewind with a little and a dash of and a whole lot of because like a beautifully crafted Blimpie sub. Of course, I got myself a nice chicken cheddar bacon ranch. We'll throw a little lettuce and tomato and some white onion and a nice mayo spread, and the bread is toasted. I am just so good. I'm the tastiest snack in the IWC. Even HooliGrim's got to take his sunglasses down because he knows that everybody wants a piece of the Storm's Meister.
I can't deny that, but I'm seriously. Did you say Blimpies?
Yeah.
You know it's almost 2024, right?
Yeah. And
Blimpies. I ain't even heard the name. I haven't heard the name Blimpies since probably before the turn of the century, my guy. You guys are, what are you, 20 years behind over there on the East Coast, or what's going on?
Dude, there's a Blimpies legitimately 100 feet from me.
You got to get on the Jersey Mike's train, my guy.
I know. I've had them all. I've had Subway, Blimpies, and Jersey Mike's.
I've been on a Jersey Mike's kick for about 2 years now, man. I can't get enough of that place.
They're all very, very solid, but you already know the drill. And enough of the self-brand promotion, the advertisements. Why don't we get straight into the festivities here? Let's start with the 0 hour. Really nothing over the top on 0 hour. If anything, we were just talking about this before we went live. They should have just done the last 2 matches on the 0 hour, and they should have given them more time, because the last 2 matches were actually very entertaining to watch. So 0 hour started with Shane Taylor, Lee Moriarty, Mercedes Martinez, and Diamante. They took on Athena, Billy Starks, Keith Lee, and Satoshi Kojima. Now, there were 3 takeaways that I got from this. 3 takeaways. Number 1, the crowd was hyped. The crowd was actually pretty loud for some of these matches. Number 2, when we get the inevitable match between Shane Taylor and Keith Lee, they're going to tear the house down. And 3, Athena's great. Outside of that, this was a complete nothing match. Nothing more than a chance to get everyone on the show. Keith Lee and Shane Taylor mixed it up a little bit. Keith Lee actually looked very good here. We had some chops by Satoshi Kojima on Lee Moriarty. Nice DDT as well. Martinez then took out Athena. Starks with a roundhouse kick on Martinez. A big pop-up spine buster by Leon Taylor. That was probably the best spot of the match. Keith Lee, he got Shane Taylor up there. And he held him up there for a couple seconds before he dropped him. That right there was very, very impressive. Athena then delivered the O-face on Lee Moriarty. He sold the shit out of that. Lee Moriarty then caught a huge lariat by Kojima, and that was pretty much it. A nothing 6-minute, 8-person tag. nothing more than a chance to showcase their talents. And obviously, we're building towards something else, probably on AEW weekly television. We'll probably get Keith Lee and Shane Taylor. We'll probably get Athena versus Billy Starks. And that's pretty much all that came of it. There's really nothing more to dissect. If you want to add anything, be my guest.
It was great to see Keith Lee. I've been a big fan of him for a minute. Good to see him, back to normal Keith Lee without the white hair and whatever that whole deal was. I was really glad to see him. Him and Shane Taylor potentially could be something pretty great. I really like how AEW is starting to amass a group of guys that weigh close to 300 pounds that can do athletic stuff off the top ropes. And Keith Lee is like the epitome of like the hybrid wrestler. He can do anything, and he always amazes me when I watch him. I wasn't a fan of whatever they got. I canceled my Ring of Honor membership last month because I haven't really watched the weekly Ring of Honor in months, to be honest with you. So I don't really know what's going on with Athena, but not seeing her on weekly television, on national TV at least. The last time I saw her, she was a pretty vicious individual, and last night she's skipping around and bouncing around like a cheerleader, and that really just kind of threw me for a loop. So I don't really know what's going on with her, but I didn't really like what I saw in terms of the character that they've got her portraying. But she's always great, and like we were saying before the show started, she's the top of the mountain in women's wrestling, in our eyes at least. So the match was what it was. It was just, I didn't really understand what the point of having that. A lot of the 0 hour, like you said, was it just to get people on the show, because it didn't really make much sense.
Matches I understood, because obviously with WrestleDream you had the Mighty Don't Kneel with the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass defending the World Trios titles, and obviously the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass are building themselves a nice solid reputation as the Trios champions. And then you had Nick Wayne and Luchasaurus, which made sense because they have beef, or at least they had beef until the main event of the show. But the other two matches, yeah, they were just kind of thrown together. They really didn't mean anything. So I kind of understand what they're doing with Athena and Billy Starks, but I much rather prefer the vicious Athena. I prefer the Athena that was beating the shit out of Willow Nightingale, and Willow Nightingale trying to be the underdog babyface. But it pretty much, it is what it is. It was just a match to try and get everyone a little showcase on WrestleDream, and that was pretty much it. And really nothing of substance at all.
Agreed.
So then we go into Josh Barnett. My first time seeing Josh Barnett. He took on Claudio Castagnoli. Jon Moxley was out there on commentary. I'm actually glad that Moxley's doing okay. No physical contact, at least for a month, but I'm glad that he's able to walk around and he's able to do his thing, and he's able to be out there with the BCC, because his presence makes things a lot better. So I was actually a little shocked at how Barnett was out wrestling Claudio in the early stages of this match. I actually thought that we were going to get some heavy hits in the early portions of this match, but Josh Barnett was out there wrestling as if he was Timothy Thatcher, which actually kind of threw me for a loop. It was a physical match. I will say that it was physical, but if I'm going to be quite honest with you, it was very boring in the early stages. I understand the whole technical wrestling thing and how it's supposed to be a mat classic, how it's supposed to be less high spots, and it's all supposed to be about these seamless transitions. But if I get too much of that, dude, I get bored. I would like to see some cross bodies. I would like to see some more fast paced action. Stuff like this. It reminds me too much of MMA. Now, you see, Sabre and Bryan was a little bit different because they actually picked up the pace as the match went on, and they actually got a little bit more physical. They actually got a lot more quick during the latter portions of the match, and it wasn't just a slow burn of submission hold transition after submission hold transition. It was physical. This match did get physical at times, but for the most part, it just kind of felt blah. It just kind of felt blah just because technical wrestling, it's a very, very, very acquired taste. It's a very acquired taste, and it's a very, very small niche when it comes to pro wrestling. I hate to use that word. I actually think that people that use the word niche are fucking retards when it comes to wrestling. But in all honesty, like, technical wrestling really is a niche, if we're going to be quite honest here. So there was a lot of submission hold transitions, head cranks, and knee bars. Claudio with some uppercuts. Barnett with an abdominal stretch and a belly-to-belly. Claudio with the swing into a knee bar. Barnett got out. Barnett with some stiff belly-to-belly suplexes. And I did not know this, but Jon Moxley and Josh Barnett actually train, and they spar in his garage, in his driveway. So that right there, that actually kind of took me by surprise. I didn't really know that Josh Barnett and Jon Moxley were such good friends when it came to training. So Barnett then blocked the neutralizer. Claudio then with a crucifix pin, and he gets the victory. Physical match, but rather boring at times. Barnett then took the microphone. Barnett then praised Claudio by saying that they don't understand how good he actually is. And Inoki would have absolutely been a big fan of you. Tonight I gave you a challenge and you overcame. However, this ain't over. You owe me one more time. Keep training. You got a long way to go. Claudio then said, anytime, any place. And they embraced and showed each other a nice sign of respect. I actually preferred the post-match promo over the match, if I'm going to be quite honest with you. I thought that was a very nice, heartfelt moment for Josh Barnett and Claudio. And Claudio, I actually do agree with Josh Barnett. I don't think that anyone really understands how good Claudio actually is. And the fact that he was made world champion right in the beginning of his AEW run, he's a two-time Ring of Honor world champion right now. I think people should start putting some respect on Claudio and how good he has carried himself ever since he's gotten into AEW, and what he did as Ring of Honor world champion in his second run, that's to be respected, because he was putting on some damn good matches with the likes of Pac and Eddie Kingston, Rocky Romero as well, and he had a fantastic showing against Kingston at Grand Slam, and he dropped it to the absolute right guy. So Claudio, in my eyes, I still think that he's not getting the respect that he deserves from a fan appreciation standpoint, because the guy is absolutely fucking amazing. But physical match, but rather boring throughout the majority of it all, because technical wrestling, it's just a very, very, very small niche that the people that enjoy it, it's just, I don't know how to say it. It's great and it's impressive, but it's just not exciting. So I'm going to throw it over to you.
I actually have a lot to say about this match. I don't know. You know that Josh Barnett he comes from the MMA world, right?
I did not know that.
Yeah, he was. I don't know if he was a UFC champion at one point, but he was a heavyweight champion in some faction or another. He's from Seattle, so he's a total Pacific Northwest legend. He was, I believe, he did commentary for New Japan for many years, if I'm not mistaken.
Did he? I didn't know that.
He did commentary with Kevin. Was it Kevin Kelly?
I mean, Kevin Kelly, he's doing commentary for Collision right now.
Yeah, and I think that before, like, right as AEW was picking up and starting to become a televised product, I believe that Kevin Kelly and him were the announcers for New Japan, the American broadcast. I might be wrong on that, or maybe it was Impact. I don't remember. But at any rate, so he's a legend in Seattle, and I get what you're saying about the technical wrestling. For me, I appreciate technical wrestling depending on who's doing it. And I think that someone like a Zack Sabre, he can get me into that type of match. Whereas if I'm watching a superstar and that's not their forte and they do that sort of thing, I'm tuned out. I agree along the lines of what you said about it being a niche. But some people really like that style, especially old heads. I noticed, they appreciate that.
I don't mean to cut you off, but if you're going to do that shit in the first 3-4 minutes of the match, fine. But after like the 4 or 5 minute mark, all right, I better start seeing some strikes. I better start seeing some clotheslines. I better start seeing some Hurricane Ranas and crossbodies and tope suicidas. That's what I mean. Like, there's certain portions of the match where you can start out doing that, but you got to pick up the pace later on. You can't just stay at that pace for the entire match. That's why I feel as though it's not as appreciated as many people that enjoy it would want it to be.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying on that. I feel like, so here's the takeaway that I had from this match. One, I started thinking, Claudio's not a spring chicken by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, he had a long run in WWE before he even got to AEW. And for him, I feel like I see Claudio a lot, whether it's on TV weekly, at every pay-per-view. I'm like, this guy is wrestling at every show, it seems like. And at his age, I know we all know Cesaro / Claudio as for his physical strength, but I feel like last night was more of a showcase to along the point that you made about fans not really realizing and comprehending how good Claudio is at professional wrestling. I think last night was the first time, like, I think a lot of people probably saw Claudio wrestling like that for the first time, you know, and that's just another dimension to his whole repertoire. Like, he can literally do anything.
It really does seem as though Claudio, even in AEW, it just seems like it's two different scenarios. With WWE, he was super talented, but they never capitalized on it. With AEW, they are capitalizing on it, but it seems as though it's such an overbearing amount of talent. It's just so much good talent under one banner that he kind of gets overlooked for other talent that is just as good as him. If not, they're actually inferior to him, but something about them just makes the fans cater to them more than Claudio. That's at least what I'm getting from it. It's the same thing with Keith Lee. Keith Lee is just in the wrong place at the wrong time. There's just so many people in there that unfortunately some people are going to fall by the wayside, and Keith Lee's one of them. But look, I do respect the technical ability of both Claudio and Josh Barnett. It just seems like technical wrestling, I don't know, it's just not for me.
I hear you on that. One more thing I'll say real quickly before we move on. I know you said you didn't watch the scrum, but Bryan Danielson was up on the podium at one point, and he was talking about Josh Barnett. And Bryan Danielson also spent a significant amount of time training in his career with Josh Barnett, being from the Pacific Northwest. So they've known each other a long time, and he actually goes into a little more detail on the media scrum about training with Barnett and Moxley and stuff like that. So that was pretty cool to hear Danielson talk about that too.
That's actually pretty badass, if I'm going to be quite honest with you. And there was a little voice in my head that was saying, you know, Bryan has to train with Josh Barnett because he's from Seattle, right? And then you just said it.
Yeah.
So moving on here, third match on 0 Hour, Luchasaurus and Nick Wayne. And this only went 5 minutes, but this actually made my black heart very happy, seeing Nick Wayne being beaten down by Luchasaurus right in front of his mother, who looks more like his sister than his mother.
I thought it was his wife.
I know, right? He's 18, Nick Wayne. Married at 18. How about that? But dude, if that's Nick Wayne's mother, my man, I got to get me one of those shirts from Maria Kanellis' website. It says, "I love hot moms." I can understand why Christian Cage slid into her DMs. But so seeing Nick Wayne being beaten to a pulp right in front of his mother, that right there just made me laugh uncontrollably. Shout out to Dan Lehman and Daniel Berry Sports Highlights. Thank you very much for stopping by. So Nick Wayne got German suplex right on the back of his neck. We had a big chop to Nick Wayne by Luchasaurus. Wayne then came back with 2 super kicks and an enziguri. Nick Wayne was then choke slammed over the top rope on the apron right at ringside. It looked absolutely brutal. I thought his spine was shattered. So Nick Wayne was then slung into the barricade right in front of his mother. Wayne then came back with a moonsault off the top for a 2 and that was a very nice 2 count right there by Nick Wayne. So Nick Wayne, I believe he went for Wayne's World, which is the cutter out of the corner. Luchasaurus caught it, rebounded him off the ropes, and delivered a clothesline right to the back of the neck. Fun match. It was a fun match for 5 minutes, but if you ask me, you could have easily had taken the 8-person tag off the show. If you wanted to do 3 matches on the 0 hour, I would have been okay with that. You could have taken the 8-person match off the show, and you could have given those 5 minutes extra to Nick Wayne and Luchasaurus, and that would have actually brought the match up several notches. But I think Nick Wayne has a very bright future. I think that he is just in the same position as Keith Lee right now. There's just a lot of people who are ahead of him, and there's a lot of people who are in positions in which the crowd would rather see them more so than a Nick Wayne. But based on what happened in the main event, I think that that's really going to take him to the next level. And we're going to talk about that when we get to the main event. But fun little match for what it was. Really nothing over the top. And Luchasaurus gets a win over Nick Wayne on the 0 hour. That was pretty much it. If you have anything to add, please speak now.
I just a couple of quick things. I totally agree. It was at the time I didn't really understand. I just thought to myself, does this really need to be on the pre-show? And after there was a big discussion that I was having with some of my friends before the pay-per-view about whether Adam Copeland was going to debut at the show or not. And I was telling you before we went live, my theory was that they weren't going to have him debut on a tribute show to Inoki, because I thought that's going to completely overshadow the fact that it was a tribute show to the late, great Antonio Inoki. So my feelings going into the match, into the pay-per-view, was that Edge wasn't going to debut. So that was my mentality seeing this match. Now, as everything played out, looking back on it, it was absolutely perfect that they put that match on the pre-show and that they did Luchasaurus and Nick Wayne to kind of set up. I mean, you knew it was going to be a squash match as soon as they both came out. You knew that it was just going to be 5-7 minutes of Nick Wayne just getting absolutely physically abused in every way, shape, or form. But I will say this real quick, and this is going to be a recurring theme of the night as we talk about these matches. AEW's really got to, in my opinion, got to go back and reassess the release German suplexes on guys, because dudes are literally landing with their head tucked and their whole body going up over their head, and someone's going to get legitimately severely injured at some point if they keep throwing these lighter weight guys around and them landing on their back of their necks like that. It looks devastating and brutal, but I mean, we've advanced enough, I think, in the pro wrestling world that we can do things that look impactful and brutal without having to actually fold a guy's neck like that.
Here's the problem with that. I feel as though it's a combination of 2 things that's causing that problem. Number one, the guy taking the move does not know how to take it properly, and the guy delivering the move does not know how to properly land his opponent. Because if anything, his opponent should land high on the shoulders, high on the upper back and the shoulders, not the neck. And if they can work out how to do that, things will work out a hell of a lot better. So from there, we go to the final match of 0 hour, which was actually a pretty decent trios match. It was the Mighty Don't Kneel, Shane Haste, a.k.a. Shane Thorne from NXT, Mikey Nichols, a.k.a. Nick Miller from NXT, and Bad Dude Tito, whom I've never heard before. They took on the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn for the AEW World Trios Championships, and the Mighty Don't Kneel, they've always been good. This was my first time seeing Bad Dude Tito. He's not bad, but TM61, Shane Haste, and Mikey Nichols, they've always been good. I was actually pretty disappointed that they did not get the proper showcase down in NXT, because man, they were such a great tag team. Dude, they were incredibly, and I mean incredibly underrated. So, Daddy Ass, he took it to Shane Haste early on. We had a super kick by Bowens on Tito. Mikey Nichols and Shane Haste then wore down Bowens. Tito then with a tope atomico. Double team action by TMDK early on. Bowens then fought back, made the tag to Daddy Ass. He lit up everyone. We had an enziguri by Tito and a German suplex for a 2. They actually took that German suplex very nicely, did Daddy Ass. Nichols and Haste then with an assisted cannonball on Caster. Then we go into a spinebuster by Tito. That got a 2 count. We had a Famouser by Daddy Ass on Bad Dude Tito. The Arrival, and then the mic drop, and the Acclaimed retain the AEW World Trios Championships. Decent match, probably the best match on the 0 hour, and the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass are establishing themselves as quite the trio. They are defending the titles pretty consistently. They've had some solid matches with Daniel Garcia in 2.0 and the Dark Order and TMDK. So I'm happy that they are being showcased very prominently. And if you're asking me, based on what happened on Rampage, Grand Slam, I definitely believe that the Mogul Embassy is going to be the team to take the titles off of the Acclaimed when the time is right. It's either them or the Blackpool Combat Club. And I'm okay with either one. But if you're asking me, I would go with the Mogul Embassy because I think that the Mogul Embassy should really start benefiting and not just from being aligned with Swerve. They already had a very nice reign as the Ring of Honor World Six-Man Tag Team Champions. I think we can get them on AEW full-time now, and they should be fighting for the AEW World Trios Championships. But let me throw it over to you. Give me your take on this before we move on to the main show.
Yeah, I mean, it was a nice match. It was nice to recognize TMDK. I thought that what was the guy's name? What'd you call him? Bad Dude Tito. Certain camera angles during that match, I was looking away from the TV doing, other random things. And a couple of times I looked at my TV and just at a quick glimpse, Bad Dude Tito just looked to me like he reminded me of Superfly Jimmy Snuka, his look with his hair and that ring attire he was wearing. But to see TMDK back, I don't know how long they've been in Ring of Honor for, probably for a while now. Like I said, I haven't really been keeping up on it much lately, but
they haven't been in Ring of Honor. They've been in New Japan.
Oh, New Japan. Okay. Got you. It was nice to see them because I felt like they did not, I know, not Shane Haste, but, my mind. Yeah. He got a very bad, I remember he got badly injured in NXT and he was out. Like right as they were hitting their stride as TM61, he got badly injured and he was out for over a year, I believe, and that totally killed their momentum. And then when he came back, things just weren't the same. And then he went back to Australia and Shane Thorne at the time, they tried to do a singles thing with him. Anyways, I was really disappointed and felt like that injury really hindered what could have been an awesome run for them down in NXT. So to see them last night, I put a smile on my face, and it was a good match for what it was. I was entertained.
So from there, we go into the main show, and the main show started off with MJF, Maxwell Jacob Friedman versus The Righteous. This was a 2-on-1 handicap match for the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championships. And I still believe that the Adam Cole injury is a work. And until we get past Full Gear, I don't think that I'm going to deter from that. If we don't see Adam Cole until after Full Gear, I really do believe that this is going to be a work. But I know a lot of people were complaining. A lot of people were bitching and moaning. And, the people like Eric Bischoff and the fucking aging podcasters, these living fossils like Jim Cornette, fucking retarded ass Brad Shepard, and fucking Raj Giri. Fuck you, Raj, by the way. All these people complaining, well, why is MJF not defending the world title on the show? Do you realize that it is a waste of MJF's talent to have him fight the righteous and the Dark Order? That's all I hear. That's all I hear from these fucking inbreds. Did you ever stop and think to yourself that maybe that there is a plan and there is a strategic, and I mean strategic reason behind this? First of all, before I talk about that reason, where the fuck were all of you when Brock Lesnar was fighting Omos? Yeah, where were you? Where were you when Brock Lesnar was fighting Omos at WrestleMania this year? Oh, people were trying to defend that shit. Well, Bray Wyatt, nobody wants to see the Firefly Funhouse shit with Brock Lesnar involved. Yeah, no shit. But Omos, that's even worse. Omos can barely fucking move. You'd be lucky if Omos does a fucking punch correctly. You get Omos and Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, and everyone and their mother was trying to justify it and bypass it because, WrestleMania's card, it doesn't matter because that looks like the only bad match on the card, so who cares? It's going to be 5 minutes anyway. Where the fuck were you when they booked that match? Matter of fact, where the fuck were you last year when Kevin Owens was feuding with Ezekiel, which was basically Elias without a beard and in Macho Man Randy Savage gear? They feuded for 4 fucking months. Where were you when Kevin Owens was being wasted and his talents were being wasted on fucking Ezekiel? No, you ate that shit up. And you were saying, Kevin Owens can make anything work. It's Kevin Owens. It's so funny seeing Kevin Owens lose his shit over Ezekiel. That's all I heard. See, it just goes to show you. It goes to show you, and it goes to show everyone with a brain, at least, everyone that should be operating like me, everyone that is operating like me, that the majority of the IWC is a bunch of fucking retards. Hypocritical retards right down to the very last letter. Because it's AEW, you come out of the woodworks and you complain. Meanwhile, WWE does this shit time and time again. What about Mustafa Ali and his talents? How many opportunities has Ali been shafted from? And he was supposed to fight Dominic Mysterio and potentially win the North American title. And then what happened? He got fired. Fucking people, I swear to God, it's shit like that really makes me wish I never even started this brand so I would not have to have a social media and be subjected to this utter idiocy. It just pisses me the fuck off, man. I cannot even tell you how much I get pissed off late at night when I'm trying to relax and I'm on my phone and I scroll through Twitter, I scroll through Instagram, I'm looking for some good wrestling news, and then I see all of this shit regarding MJF and how his talents are being wasted. First of all, why would you want to have MJF defend the world title on a pay-per-view just for the simple fact of him defending it on a pay-per-view? If you noticed, every single MJF world title defense has had story behind it. Bryan Danielson has story behind it. The Four Pillars match had story behind it. Hiroshi Tanahashi had story behind it. Adam Cole had story behind it. And Samoa Joe had story behind it. The world title matches that MJF competes in are involved with stories that are built over time. And now they're building a story with Jay White heading into Full Gear. And it's going to be great. It's a very, very fortunate circumstance that he has the Ring of Honor World Tag Team titles because this gives MJF the opportunity to work with some people that he never got to work with and to do some things that you would have never even expected him to do. MJF, as we speak, and we were talking about this before the stream went live, MJF is the most valuable player that AEW has right now. He is the most valuable player in AEW history. He may be one of the most valuable players in pro wrestling history, period. Why would you not want MJF, who right now, everything he touches turns to gold? MJF can do no wrong. There is nothing that he cannot do. If he wakes up one day and decides to sprout wings and fly, he's going to do it. Why would you not want MJF to spread some of that credibility that he has to others around him? He's doing it with Adam Cole. He's doing it with Roderick Strong. He's doing it with the Kingdom. He did it with the Dark Order back at All Out in the tag team match with Adam Cole. And he did it here with the Righteous. Why would you not want new people to get the spotlight? Why would you not want new people to get the opportunity to showcase what they can do and potentially generate some credibility for themselves? But no, you people are conditioned to seeing the same fucking people week in and week out on WWE television. You're conditioned to seeing the same fucking match with Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens taking on some formation of the Judgment Day week in and week out. So I'm sorry that seeing new talent and giving new talent opportunities, I'm sorry that that isn't very familiar in your nature. You need to get with the fucking program. On top of that, this is giving MJF the opportunity to work in matches in which he's protected. This match wasn't a classic by any means, but MJF had the crowd eating out of the palm of his hands. He had him going nuts for a fucking body slam on Dutch. And people are going to remember this match as being the match that MJF beat the Righteous. The Righteous did everything that they could, and they couldn't beat MJF, which is exactly what should have happened because he's the world champion. He should be booked strong. It's not like it was a 20-minute match and the Righteous did all of this crazy damage to MJF. It's not like they hit him with chairs or they put him through tables. It's not like what happened with Samoa Joe at Grand Slam. That was a fucking mugging of MJF, and he came out victorious against Samoa Joe. This was nowhere near that. This is all about protecting your investment. And the fact that he's the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions with Adam Cole, this gives MJF the opportunity to work in matches where he does not need to expend as much energy, and he can save the high spots and the crazy shit for the big-time world title matches, but the crowd is still getting their daily dose or their weekly dose or their pay-per-view dose of MJF. It works great for all parties involved. It works great for AEW, it works great for MJF, and it works great for whoever he's in the ring with, because everything that he does, he makes it work. That's how good he is. He came out, the crowd was already cheering for him, and he got the crowd to chant half of his catchphrase. All he said was, "My name is Maxwell Jacob Friedman," and the entire crowd did the rest of the phrase, "And I'm better than you and you know it." Why would anyone complain about this is beyond me. So before I get into the specifics here, would you like to add anything to what I just said? Because I'm telling you, that shit just me off.
Oh man, I was cracking up laughing when you started this rant because
Dude, I'm sorry. I needed to get that out.
my I think as of late, the past month at least, my favorite Twitter beef going is your back and forth. You and Raj Giri, man, have had me.
I hate that motherfucker. I swear to God, I cannot stand him.
So here's the thing. When I was a kid, Raj Giri and the other guys you proceeded to bury at the beginning of this rant, like Jim Cornette and I don't know who else you said.
Eric Bischoff, Vince Russo, Brad Shepard. And before I let you continue, dude, I'm just going to throw it out there right now. Guys like Brad Shepard and Raj Giri, had I been around since 2012 and 2013, and I had been doing this full time, those motherfuckers would be working for me right now. I would be number one in terms of subscribers and views. None of those guys could hold my jockstrap.
I do. So I grew up in the time period of pro wrestling when they were probably already grown. Well, Russo, Cornette, and Raj Giri were already adult males. So when they put out tweets, like when Raj put out that tweet about MJF and it being a waste of his time basically to be on even on that show because he wasn't defending the belt. I understand why he said that. And I part of me understands where he's coming from with that. But you got to think a lot of these guys are like old WWF heads, right? So they see pro wrestling kind of with blinders on, right? And it's from the era that they were either a part or grew up watching wrestling. That's the way things were done. So when they're looking at MJF, when Raj is talking about, you know, it being a waste of his star power to be on the show, not defending the belt. I'm a little bit different because I was a kid growing up watching wrestling in that time period, but pro wrestling in my lifetime has evolved so much since then. And when you're not an already established adult, your mind, as you're a kid and you're growing up, your mind and stuff is also changing and you're evolving just as a human being alone. So I think it's easier for me to see both sides of the coin. I can identify with what the old heads say and how they see their pro wrestling. And then I can also identify with the younger generation and how pro wrestling has been in their lifetime. And it's two separate worlds. So when Raj Giri made that tweet and then you responded, I get where both of you guys are coming from. I do kind of agree with you. I don't agree with everything those guys say. But I do tend to side with you more in this regard in terms of I thought it was absolutely necessary that MJF was on the show in some way, shape, or form. Of course not defending the AEW title. That wouldn't have made any sense. There was no build up to no storyline for anybody that he could have possibly faced for the title. So it's a great fortunate circumstance that he's also Ring of Honor tag champions with Cole, because I agree with everything you said about that. It gives him an opportunity to work with guys that aren't normally going to get paired up with the top guy of the company, like a Righteous tag team or, whoever else have you. So it's good in terms of getting some of those guys some exposure. And not everything needs to be, I think, like Raj's comment, like everybody's looking at the world title kind of along the same way that they view Roman Reigns in his title run and the way that he's being booked. It's like
Roman's title run sucks. Like post WrestleMania, his title reign has been complete dog shit, man. MJF is wiping the floor with him this year.
I just feel like they have this one track mentality about the world champion being up here and then everything else being less than or beneath.
No, you can't do that. That's the thing. Like it's 2023. It's not about one guy being above everyone else. It's about the entire roster being built up to be credible, at least in some aspects. Obviously, there's going to be other people that are going to have more credibility than others. But in terms of an overall aspect, you can't just put all your effort into one guy, because if you put all your effort into one guy, then the rest of the show is going to suffer. That's why these fucking people, they just do not evolve with the times. That they do not evolve mentally. And it's that.
Are you there?
What?
Are you there? The screen went black for a few seconds. I'm just making sure everything's all good.
No, we're good. We're good. I can see you. But
all right.
The problem is the fact that it's that diluted mentality that's holding them back. If they were operating in 2023 with a 2023 mentality when it comes to pro wrestling, I guarantee you a lot more people would be more in favor of them and a lot more people would be more supportive of them. The only reason why a lot of those individuals have a lot of followers and a lot of listeners is because the majority of people nowadays, it's like retardation attracts. In 2023, stupidity is the new cool. You take a look at TikTok. 99% of the shit that you see on TikTok is complete and utter retardation, but it gets millions of views. That's the problem. No one has any standards anymore. But the match itself, listen, it wasn't a classic, but for what we got, MJF had this crowd hanging on every single word that he said.
It was perfect.
Every single thing that he did.
It was perfect. It got the crowd. It opened the show kind of with a bang. MJF comes out. The whole crowd is literally. I was thinking to myself, I thought they only sold they sold less than 10,000 tickets. I was shocked
like 5,500, I think.
I was shocked at how loud the crowd was.
Dude, you would have never realized.
No. And just seeing MJF come out on the ramp and just like we were talking before we went live, it's just something when you see a kid start out from the beginning and then he ascends up the rankings and the ladder, so to speak. Just seeing MJF in his element last night with the two, the 3 titles on him, man, it's just it was an awesome moment as a pro wrestling fan to just kind of sit there and think back real quick in just a short few years that we've been watching MJF, like look at what this kid's done, and now he is literally the king of the hill. It was an awesome thing to see.
If MJF is not a bona fide, if anything, I would not be opposed if MJF, whenever he retires, he should absolutely be an inductee into the inaugural AEW Hall of Fame when they create that.
Without a doubt,
Jericho is going to be the first inductee.
I got a little debate I want to throw at you though, because I was thinking about something you've been saying recently regarding Tiffany Stratton. I know this is an AEW review, but I just want to understand. I want to pick your brain for a second. So you've been saying that Tiffany Stratton's been buried by Becky Lynch a couple of times in the last 30 days, yes, with her losing the title and then losing the rematch. How is your viewpoint that way towards what's going on with Tiffany Stratton and Becky Lynch, as opposed to when we were talking before we went live, I said, I'm not sure how much the Righteous benefited from what happened to them in the ring with MJF yesterday, but you seem to have the opposite opinion of the Righteous and what happened with them and MJF, as opposed to seeing it the same way with Tiffany Stratton while she's in there with a bona fide superstar, and she's, she lost her matches, but at the end of that match on NXT, No Mercy the other night, I had completely when I'm watching, people do their thing live on YouTube and review the show and whatnot, I completely forgot that Tiffany Stratton lost the match. Like, that's how much she was probably one of the most eye-opening things to me of that whole pay-per-view, because I've never seen her wrestle. And just that,
she's great, dude. She's fantastic. Listen, I take nothing away from what Becky and Tiffany Stratton did in their.
No, I know. I just want to know about how you see it, the way you see it.
So here's the difference. It's different in terms of the way that all of these individuals, MJF, the Righteous, Tiffany Stratton, and Becky, it's much different when you compare the positions that they're in, the booking that they have, and the presentation that they've had over the course of the last several months. You take a look at the Righteous. The Righteous is not a team that has had heavy investment by AEW in the last, I would say, year plus. If we're going to talk about heavy investment, Tiffany Stratton has been a heavy, and I mean a heavy investment on WWE's part ever since she made her debut in NXT. She has busted her ass to get better week in and week out. The Righteous, they have not been showcased on AEW television prominently. They are in the embryonic stages of their AEW run. Meanwhile, Tiffany Stratton has been showcased a lot more frequently than the Righteous, and she has been wildly touted as the woman that's going to be legitimately on the same level as the Horsewomen in a couple of years. She is this good at what, 23, 24, right? She was given the NXT Women's Championship in a tournament in probably what was the best women's match of Memorial Day weekend with Lyra Valkyria. I thought that was fantastic, what they did. Very good match. Tiffany Stratton was given the championship, right? Her title reign was absolute dog shit. She was booked horribly. She was put in a feud with Thea Hale. Now, Thea Hale's very good. I'm not going to discredit Thea Hale, but she was put in a feud with Thea Hale, and none of their matches were memorable. Matter of fact, the submission match at the Great American Bash was a complete fucking mess. Then they throw together a program with Becky Lynch within a week and a half for no other reason other than the fact that they need to get ratings on NXT because they're trying to rejuvenate the media rights deals for NXT. They're trying to get another 3 to 5 years on NXT on the USA Network. So what do? They have Becky Lynch, who right now is easily the biggest female star in the wrestling industry, minus Charlotte Flair. She's had a career that people would kill for. And I mean, people would kill for. And you have her go into NXT, beat Tiffany Stratton, who went into the summer, had a terrible reign because of shit booking down in NXT. They didn't know what the fuck they were doing with her. And after a measly 100 days, a measly, uneventful, unimportant, unmemorable 106 days, I think, as champion, she drops the title to Becky Lynch in the same exact format, the same exact scenario that we saw at WrestleMania 36 with Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair. That should have been a victory for Rhea Ripley back at WrestleMania 36. Charlotte Flair beat Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley was never the same again. She lost herself, man. She completely lost herself. She went on a losing streak. Her promo ability regressed, and she was just a dead act. And then she lost to Charlotte Flair again. And the only reason why she rejuvenated her career was because Triple H took over for 5 months while Vince McMahon retired and then plotted to manipulate his way back into the company to facilitate the sale to Endeavor. Rhea Ripley is one of the luckiest motherfuckers in the company as we speak. With the Righteous, it's much different than Tiffany Stratton because the Righteous, they have been doing this for a long, long time. They have had a hell of a career in Ring of Honor. They've been showcased heavily on Ring of Honor's AEW programming as well. They had a big feud going into Ring of Honor Death Before Dishonor with the Dark Order, and now they're just starting to make their debut in AEW. They went in there with the Hardys. They beat the Hardys. They won a fatal four-way match to determine who's going to face the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions at WrestleDream. And they're in a scenario with the AEW World Champion, MJF, who right now should be booked as the strongest man in the company, a man who is currently developing a legacy for himself. He's not like Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch has had a career in which many women would kill for. She should be winning no championships. Tiffany Stratton barely got her feet wet as the NXT Women's Champion, and with how much investment that they had in Tiffany Stratton, to see her drop the NXT Women's Championship after a measly 100-day reign to Becky Lynch, it feels like all this investment was built up for nothing. All people are going to remember about Tiffany Stratton in her young age is, oh, that's the woman that Becky Lynch beat to become NXT Women's Champion. And she's going to have a long road of recovery ahead for her. The Righteous, they're not meant to become World Tag Team Champions. And if they are, it's not going to be for a while. It's not going to be for a while. If they are, it's probably going to be Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions probably down the line in another couple of years. The Righteous were never meant to be a heavy investment by AEW. Tony Khan is just trying to give new teams opportunities, and he's trying to rebuild and rebolster the tag team division, because the tag team division throughout the end of 2022 going into the beginning and mid 2023, the tag team division was not very hot. The tag team division was kind of floundering. There wasn't really many tag teams to put forth into the tag team title picture. But now you start taking a look at what they got. They got the Hardys. They got the Righteous. They got FTR. They got Aussie Open. They got the Guns. They got the Young Bucks. They got the Lucha Brothers. They got many of other individuals that are probably going to make their way up. Look at the Ring of Honor tag team division. You got Better Than You Bay down there. You got the Infantry down there. You got Best Friends as well. Best Friends, they're very good at what they do. You got the Kingdom as well. The Kingdom made their way up to AEW television. They're trying to rebolster the tag team division, and the Righteous are a part of that. They're not young stars that are going to be, oh my God, we're going to have so much potential with these young stars known as the Righteous. No, the Righteous are established veterans that are being used to bolster the tag team division. Tiffany Stratton is just starting out her career. And if you put her in there with someone who shouldn't be winning any titles and someone who realistically should be putting people over, Tiffany Stratton, and how her NXT Women's title reign was booked, it felt like it was all for nothing. That's the difference.
I feel like, so hearing your explanation, Two things. One, it makes sense, and I understand your viewpoint, but at the same time, to other people such as myself, it also comes off as a contradiction a little bit, because I had not seen the Righteous wrestle until last night. I don't know who they are. I don't know where they came from. So for that being my first time seeing them.
And didn't you watch the Fight Without Honor at Death Before Dishonor, the show that we reviewed?
No, remember, I had all kinds of technical difficulty, and I actually... I'm sorry?
I thought you only missed the main event with Athena and Willow Nightingale.
No, I missed most of that show.
Go back and rewatch it. It was fantastic.
So, for the Righteous, to me, after the match was over, my immediate takeaway was, well, I didn't have a problem with everything that happened in the match, because I understood the match for what it was.
The only problem I had was the fact that MJF pinned Dutch. He should have pinned Vincent. That's the only problem that I had.
I feel like if you're making a case that Tiffany Stratton was buried, Tiffany Stratton, for one, if anybody does their research on her and they find out that she was trained by Greg Gagne, then automatically you should know, if you know your wrestling history, she was coming in with a rocket pack strapped to her. Like, Greg Gagne's not just going to train anybody that comes knocking on his door saying that they want to train pro wrestling. You know what I mean? So I knew that Tiffany Stratton is you can just tell by looking at her, like, the only reason why she even had this NXT Women's Championship is for later on down the road, when Michael Cole or whoever's going to be announcing her matches at the time is going to throw that out there, that she was also NXT Women's Champion.
But if you're going to give her a title reign, you got to make it meaningful. She shouldn't have lost the title
But
until next year.
I feel like her title wasn't meant for her having a title reign. It was for the fact so she could say she was NXT champion, because in their mind, she hasn't even been on TV for 2 years. She hasn't been on TV for 2 years.
If you're not going to invest in a legitimate title reign, because that makes the title look bad.
But when somebody comes in and they're green and then they ascend quicker than anyone in recent memory, to give the people running the show the idea of, oh, this girl is it, we got to get her up on national TV like ASAP, it makes sense why because I feel like after what's gone on with her, like she's done with NXT, in my opinion. But the Righteous,
for her to do on the main roster. She does not fit into the main roster plans as of right now. You can't just call her up just for the sake of calling her up. Then she's just going to be like a Candice LeRae. She's barely Candice LeRae. They're not doing shit with her.
I just felt like after I saw the Righteous last night, I'm like, okay, I understand what the Righteous are here. They are enhancement. They're an enhancement tag team. That's what they're going to be, because there's no way you're going to just have them come out and just have MJF literally get on the mic and say, I'm going to take you and your head and shove it up your partner's ass, and then actually do it. I mean, that's kind of a burial.
No, you see, there's a difference, because it's all about the intent. It's all about the intent. The intent of Tiffany Stratton and the fact that she lost to Becky Lynch was a desperate attempt for WWE to gain ratings on Tuesday nights, which failed, because after the 850,000 viewers that they got when Becky won the title, they went right back to under 650,000 the following week, and Becky was on the show.
And I get that. And I'm not saying you're wrong. I just don't think that was the sole. I just don't think, like, you're not wrong. I just don't think that that was the sole purpose, was for a ratings pop. I feel like
No. That was the sole purpose. That is a legit fact, because there were reports that came out about that.
But you don't think that the people running WWE have it in mind that this girl is pretty much maxed out all that she can do with what NXT has to offer? Because there's literally...
If she had a legit NXT women's title reign, then yes, she would have been maxed out. You take a look at the reigns that title has had. Asuka, Shayna Baszler, Ember Moon, and Sasha Banks and Bayley. We needed reigns like that for Tiffany Stratton. We needed reigns with great women's wrestling matches, rich stories. That was going to be the thing that was going to max Tiffany Stratton out in NXT. And another thing, remember, Tiffany Stratton is the up-and-coming star as the champion. And then you got Becky Lynch as the veteran that should be putting people over. The Righteous were the veterans here. MJF was the young talent that is pretty much becoming one of the greatest stars of all time right before our very eyes. That is another major difference.
I just feel like you can't book every champion the same way. Otherwise, it's formulaic and predictable. So
it's not being booked the same way, because if a champion's booked the same way, that means that they would have the same stories, they would have the same matches with the same people. No.
So Tiffany Stratton, in your mind, should have beaten Becky Lynch the first time and the second time both?
Yes. And, if you were going to do a Becky versus Tiffany match, you should have just done it once at No Mercy. You could have had Becky make some appearances on NXT, but if you wanted a big-time matchup for No Mercy, I wouldn't have minded that. But if you're going to have Tiffany Stratton in that position, Tiffany Stratton should have beaten Becky, because a win would have taken Tiffany Stratton up several notches. It's all in the follow-up as well. Because here's the thing. I know some people are going to mention, oh, what about Austin Theory when he beat John Cena? That wasn't Austin Theory's fault, because after the draft, they completely disregarded Austin Theory and put all their effort into the bloodline. And that's the problem with WWE. They put all their effort into one thing, neglect everything else. They're putting all of their effort into these main roster superstars holding NXT championships and neglecting the fact that they have a roster full of talent down there. Dragon Lee and Carmelo Hayes and Dragunov. I'm very happy that Dragunov's the NXT champion right now. I will say that. Noam Dar and Trick Williams, he'll come along when the time is right. Plenty of other people down there. God knows how many people. Wes Lee down there. So many of these individuals that are being shafted because WWE's got to pop ratings on Tuesday night. It's all about the intent. MJF, and here's another thing. It's not like the Righteous went in there and just completely demolished MJF like Samoa Joe did. If that was the case, then it would have been considered more of a burial. But the match went 10 minutes, and the Righteous didn't even do anything crazy. They didn't hit MJF with chairs. They didn't, put him through tables. They didn't use chains or kendo sticks. They didn't beat MJF to within an inch of his life like Joe did. They went in there, and they did their standard moves. MJF went in there, and he was able to get past the Righteous. And hell, he even cheated a bit too. So if anything, if he was able to cheat as well, I mean, if you're going to cheat, then you could kind of make the argument that the Righteous kind of got robbed, because MJF was, grabbing Vince's balls and putting his feet on the rope when he was pinning Dutch. It's just a completely different scenario because of the intent and the way that each of these individuals are presented and the position that they're all in. Because MJF is the one that should be on the rise. The Righteous should be the one. The Righteous should be the ones that are helping others get over. It's the same thing with the Hardys. Like the Hardys, they're in a scenario where they're putting all these other tag teams over. They're giving back to the business. The Hardys, listen, they're great, but they're in no position where they should be champions. They can get a couple wins here and there, but the Hardys should be helping others get over. Same thing with the Righteous, because they're already veterans. Same thing with Becky Lynch.
I guess it just remains to be seen what they do with Tiffany Stratton then, because, like I said, if she's main roster bound and they're going to push her and throw her into like the women's title hunt sooner rather than later for her, then her losing to Becky Lynch, to me, in a lot of ways makes sense, because I know you don't watch other podcasters.
I do from time to time, but not consistently. The only one that I kind of watch a lot of is JD. And
obviously, everybody that knows me on social media knows where I come from. So I'm a big JD guy myself. But that's how I consume most of my weekly wrestling now, is through you guys. And a lot of talk after that match in NXT. I mean, people were really high on Tiffany Stratton, even though she lost. I mean, I don't remember.
I am too. Trust me, I am too. I know Tiffany Stratton is great. But the problem is
nobody was that fixated on her loss like you were. And I think I don't think it was as damaging. In my opinion, it wasn't her losing, if she's main roster bound, wasn't damaging to her in any way, shape, or form. She was actually so over after that match. Like, people were, including myself, I had never seen her really wrestle until the other night. And I was just like, oh, like, what? Like, who's this? Like, she's got to there's nothing for her to do in NXT because unfortunately Nikita Lyons had that injury and she's been out all year.
Nikita Lyons would have been the perfect woman to take the championship off of Tiffany Stratton. They could have
Yeah.
that was a match that they could have built up.
I think that's the way that they were going. They were probably had that, in their thought process before Nikita got injured. But even, I don't know, watching Tiffany Stratton, but you know me, I've been a big Nikita Lyons fan from day one.
Yeah.
And after that Tiffany Stratton match, I'm like, Nikita Lyons got some work to do.
And a match with Tiffany Stratton would have definitely helped that. And Tiffany Stratton had so much other individuals to feud with. She could have gotten another match with Roxanne Perez, potentially a match with Gigi Dolan, potentially another match with Lyra Valkyria, Nikita Lyons when she comes back. I don't mind main roster superstars appearing on NXT from time to time, but the intent behind it is why I get pissed off. Now, again, like you said, it remains to be seen what happens with Tiffany Stratton following this loss. But based on prior history, based on what happened with Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair, dude, I can't really say that I have any faith in them.
I hear you. I hear you. I just wanted your thought process on it. That's all.
Hopefully, I'll be able to educate a lot more people. But knowing them, they'll probably disregard me because of my age. I'm one of the smartest motherfuckers in here, people. Okay.
DJ
MJF the Righteous. So MJF came out with the microphone, and crowd was going nuts for him. He goes, "It appears the devil has arrived in Seattle." He goes, "I'm a little pissed off. Some bullshit going around that I attacked Jay White. I had nothing to do with that. Some schmuck stole my mask, and Adam Cole is hurt." Yeah, sure he is, Max. So he goes, "I'm going to make sure when he comes back that the Ring of Honor World Tag Team titles are waiting for him." And I do have to say, the fact that MJF is the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions with Adam Cole, he's doing those titles good as well. So he goes to Dutch. He looks at Dutch and he goes, "Fat boy, I'm going to hit you with a body slam." And that became part of the story throughout the whole match. He goes, "White boy with dreads." Great choice, by the way. I laughed at that. He goes, "I'm going to tie your hair in a bow and shove it up his fat ass because my name is Maxwell Jacob Friedman." He then put the mic to the crowd, and the crowd goes, "And I'm better than you, and you know it." MJF and LA Knight right now, two men that absolutely have the crowds in the palm of their hands. So MJF with an eye poke on Dutch. MJF then got shoved right into a waiting clothesline by Dutch. They swarmed him. Vincent then with a low flatliner. This was actually really, really good. And this goes to show you how good MJF and Adam Cole are. And Adam Cole really isn't even there. And they were getting these guys heat. Vincent did the Adam Cole Bay gesture. And he goes, "You dig what I'm saying, man?" I like what they're doing. I like the Righteous. The Righteous are great at what they do. If you didn't see their match with the Hardys, I would highly encourage you to go out of your way to watch because it wasn't anything special, but they carried themselves very well against the Hardys. So after that, MJF then went for the body slam. Dutch squashed him. Dutch is no small man, by the way. We had a power bomb by Dutch. Vincent with death from above. MJF kicked out. Dutch then with a beautiful boss man slam. That's probably one of my favorite moves from Dutch, the boss man slam. It looked gorgeous. MJF kicked out again. Dutch then brought in a chair. Same with Vincent. The referee was caught up with Dutch and MJF with a testicular claw. And Vincent was looking like he was going to pass out as MJF was squeezing his testicles. MJF tried the fake out. We had another attempt at death from above by Vincent, and he missed. Tag to Dutch. MJF mounted a comeback. MJF with a body slam on Vince. Dutch was then sent headfirst into the buckle. We had 10 punches in the corner by MJF, and MJF then bit Dutch. Not Dutch, excuse me. He bit Vincent in the forehead. MJF then got the crowd hyped up. He delivers a picture-perfect body slam to Dutch. And then, I don't know why I laughed at this shit, but as soon as he did the body slam, he just fell back like he got punched or something. He fell back like his spine just gave out on him. I thought that was hilarious. So the crowd was legitimately chanting "Holy shit" off of the body slam. I was having the time of my life right here watching this shit. So MJF then took Vince and threw him right between Dutch's legs, so he lived up to his promise. MJF then was in position. He got himself in position. He mounted himself for the kangaroo kick. Crowd going absolutely nuts as if it's 80,000 people in Wembley. Double kangaroo kick right on the money. MJF is shaking the ropes like the Ultimate Warrior. Crowd was electric. Heat Seeker on Dutch. Feet on the ropes, and MJF retains. There is nothing that MJF cannot do. He got a body slam over the Righteous. They're very good at what they do. It was quick. It was simple. It was fun, and it was very, very effective. This match did exactly what it needed to do. And in the end, MJF continues to prove to everyone why he is the Wrestler of the Year and why he is the most valuable player that AEW has ever acquired. I'm telling you, I'm literally with this crowd. I legit hang on every single thing that MJF does, and I hang on every single word that he says. He is so good. I understand why people are mad that he isn't defending the world title, but at the same point in time, there comes a time where you really want to protect your investment, and this is a great way to protect your investment where he doesn't have to do much. He can showcase a lot more of his entertainment value, and it's shit like this that's going to get him even more over as a babyface. It's shit so simple, but yet he can get something over so simple as a fucking front drop kick, a kangaroo kick, a body slam. It is so simple, and it works in beautiful favor towards him, and he has done a great job at taking on the babyface role. I didn't really think they could have done it, but he has played the asshole babyface very, very nicely, and the crowd just hangs on everything that he does. It's a beautiful thing to see. It was simple, effective, it was fun for what it was, and it did exactly what it needed to do to start off the show. If you want to add anything else, please speak now, and then we'll move on.
You pretty much covered it all. The crowd was hot for this. I was glad to see how this opened the whole main show. It did what it needed to do. They got a little bit of the storyline about, him and Adam Cole going on in there, and used the Righteous to show just how versatile MJF is. Like, there's not one person in pro wrestling that you could stick him in the ring with and he wouldn't figure out a way to make it over with everybody. You know what I mean?
It's a very, very fun thing to see, and I genuinely look forward to whenever MJF competes in a tag team match for the Ring of Honor World Tag Team titles, because after the last two matches, after the match with the Dark Order, which was a very fun, a very nice old school tag team match, and then this match, I genuinely look forward to seeing what MJF does next, because whomever he works with automatically becomes the top tier heel of the night. And then it's so weird, because when he was a heel, anyone that he worked with automatically became the biggest babyface of the night. Now, whoever he's working with becomes automatically the biggest heel of the night. It's unbelievable. It's like I'm living in an alternate fucking universe.
My paranoid wrestling brain found a little bit of humor in the fact that, because online there's been a lot of recent chitter chatter about the fact that MJF hasn't re-signed with AEW yet.
No,
well, that's just what I've been seeing going around, and I just saw the irony last night in the fact that MJF was wrestling a guy named Vince, and he had his balls in his hand at one point, and then took Vince's head and shoved it up another guy's ass. I just thought that was kind of metaphorical, but that's just me.
Oh God, I didn't really catch that, but I'm glad that you pointed that out. But so it was a fun little handicap match. It did what it needed to do, And again, I really don't understand why anyone would complain about this because it works well for all parties. We then go into Eddie Kingston and Katsuyori Shibata. This was for the New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong Openweight and the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championships. And I put this out there. This was probably the best Shibata match since his match with Orange Cassidy for the International Championship last November on Rampage. This was very, very, very good, very physical. Shibata actually made me believe that he was going to win the championship. I'm not even lying. I legit thought Shibata was going to become a modern-day Triple Crown champion. It was very, very stressful towards the home stretch. So Shibata was chopping and kicking the shit out of Kingston. This was probably the most intense I've seen Shibata in a while. We had an ankle lock by Shibata. Eddie got to the ropes. Shibata clearly out-wrestling Kingston. Kingston with a Saito suplex, machine gun chops as well. Shibata with a hesitation drop kick right on the money. Kingston and Shibata traded blow after blow. We had an exploder suplex. Shibata got right up. STO, both men are down. Crowd was clapping. Kingston then with the Iron Octopus. He was locked in it deep. Locked in with the Iron Octopus was Eddie Kingston. Kingston just got to the ropes. I legit thought Kingston was going to pass out. I don't know about you, but I legit thought Kingston was going to lose right there. So after that, Kingston then with a spinning back fist and a second one. Shibata with a PK, both men down again. Both men got up, traded more chops, traded more forearms. We had another back fist. Shibata kicked out at one. We had a Northern Lights bomb. Shibata kicked out again. Kingston said, fuck this. The Orican, spinning back fist, and then a power bomb high on the shoulders. And Eddie Kingston retains both the Ring of Honor and the New Japan Strong Openweight Championship in a very physical, very fun match. Crowd was into it. And I'm very, very happy that Eddie Kingston is getting the push that he is getting because Eddie Kingston has busted his ass to get in this position. And they have a feud set up for him after the show. On Rampage, when he defended the Strong Openweight title against Rocky Romero, he was approached before the match by Jay Lethal. And Jay Lethal looks like he's eyeing the Ring of Honor World Championship. I'm not sure if we're going to get that match at Battle of the Belts. I'm not sure if we're going to get that match at Full Gear or if we're going to get it at Final Battle in 2 months in December. But listen, if you're going to give me Eddie Kingston versus Jay Lethal, I do not have an issue with that. I think that is a great, great match for Eddie Kingston and a very nice feud. Matter of fact, Jay Lethal should be a singles guy. I fucking hate the fact that he's in a trio with Satnam Singh and Jeff Jarrett. If anything, Jeff Jarrett and everyone else should just be his manager with Jay Lethal being the singles guy. So if you're going to give me Jay Lethal, Eddie Kingston for the Ring of Honor World Championship, I'm not going to complain one bit. But Shibata, he's doing some great shit. Very happy to see Shibata in a proper showcase here. And Shibata, I don't know who's going to take that pure championship from him, but Shibata right now, he's really developing a nice reputation for himself in Ring of Honor and on AEW TV. And Eddie Kingston, I couldn't be happier for Eddie Kingston. Floor is yours, brother.
Of all the matches of the night, this one for me was, I don't want to take anything away from the match because it was a great match and I don't have anything very negative to say about the match. But it was just out of the group of matches, I was the least, I don't want to say invested.
There was just no heat. There was no heat.
I literally started to watch the show back this morning to remember certain, some things about last night because there was so much involved in last night's show. And when this match came on, I thought back to last night. I don't even remember watching this match last night. I'm like, oh, shit, Eddie Kingston was on last night. I totally forgot. So
that's because we had about like 3 or 4 match of the year candidates. Oh, by the way, Raging Girl Gamers in the chat. Shout out to you. Thank you very much for the support.
Shout out Rage. Love you, Rage. Hope you're doing good. Eddie Kingston's great. I love Eddie Kingston. The one thing that just stuck out in my mind about the match, I don't know why, and it's a negative, but they were calling Eddie Kingston does that spinning back fist so much in his matches. I felt like it's starting to become overused in his repertoire, and he's doing it. It's becoming like a 5 moves of doom type of scenario for me, where he's just constantly always doing these back fists. But my little gripe was the announcers were calling it a back fist, and at one point he did like 3 in a row, but his hand was open.
Well, I don't think you can do it with a dude. If he did it with a closed fist, like holy shit, like that would have knocked Shibata out cold for real.
So my point is, if you're going to do that and you're going to do it so many times, you got to get a little bit better at selling the move as a fist, whether you open your hand at the last second or the camera angle maybe shows it differently, so where you can't just blatantly see him hitting him with the open palm and they're calling it a spinning back fist. That just kind of was a little...
Actually, no, they weren't calling it a spinning back fist. They were calling it the Orican. I just call it a spinning back fist because, dude, I don't know how to fucking spell Orican.
I think a couple of times, though, Nigel or somebody said spinning back fist. I remember that.
Well, either way, like I understand what you're saying there, because when we look back on this, this was one of the undercard matches of the night. It was fine for what it was, but compared to some of the other matches on the show, like Hangman and Swerve, or Bryan and Sabre, or Christian and Darby, Aussie Open FTR, this clearly was not up there memorability. However, I do believe it was a very nice showcase of both Shibata and Kingston. And
yeah, that's the other point I was going to say was I really enjoyed last night. There's a lot of people that aren't familiar with New Japan, and I don't watch New Japan on the regular. I know of some of the bigger names in New Japan over the years just because if you're a wrestling fan and you're on the internet, you're going to hear about an Okada or a Shibata. But I really liked that WrestleDream was almost like a Forbidden Door 1.5. Like when Forbidden Door happened this year.
We did have a story too.
I'm sorry?
Well, we did have some story with this. Forbidden Door was just a Dream pay-per-view. We did have some story with WrestleDream.
I just like that because I wondered when Tony Khan announced, his little partnership with New Japan, and they did the couple of Forbidden Doors that we've gotten the last year. I've been wondering, like, are they going to do a little bit more with New Japan, or is it just going to be a one-off once a year with the Forbidden Door thing? So I really like that they're incorporating some of these Japanese veterans and legends at this stage in their careers to those that know them. But for a lot of us, it's sad that just WWE and Vince McMahon had the stranglehold on pro wrestling in this country for so long and was not open to working with other companies and exposing pro wrestling to the masses to get everybody, more eyes and ears involved with pro wrestling, as opposed to Vince wants everybody's eyes on the WWE aspect of pro wrestling and fuck everybody else. So a lot of these guys in New Japan who are known worldwide, except for in the United States, I'm really glad to see that they're getting showcased in some of these events, so that, a lot of these younger kids that are discovering pro wrestling at an early age, get to see and experience some of these guys.
Oh yeah, especially Shibata, because Shibata, he's doing some great shit. I'm really, really enjoying his reign as the Ring of Honor Pure Champion. Although I do still think Daniel Garcia should have won back in July at Death Before Dishonor. But I digress about that. It was a solid 11-minute match, very physical, and easily the best Shibata match that I've seen since the Orange Cassidy match at Rampage for that time, it was the All-Atlantic Championship. Now it's the International Championship.
I was actually surprised that they got 11 minutes. I mean, I felt like the match had a good length to it. I was surprised it went as long as it did.
I'm glad it did. I'm glad it did too, because it goes to show you it doesn't matter who you put in that ring. You give them time, and they're going to put on a solid match. And I do agree with what MJF said on the post-media scrum. This is probably one of the best rosters in professional wrestling in general that AEW has assembled in its entire history. Do you take a look at that roster? How can you deny him? If you're denying him, you're just trying to be an asshole, and you're just trying to be cool. And spoiler alert: if you're denying MJF there, you should not be talking about pro wrestling, because that roster that they've assembled, my God, like that's a roster that I could only dream of. No pun intended. From there, after that, That was probably my favorite match on the show up until that point. Although I did thoroughly enjoy the Righteous and MJF in that handicap match, but that wasn't about the wrestling.
Right.
Kingston and Shibata was more about the wrestling. From there, we go into the TBS Championship. This was Julia Hart and Chris Statlander, and this match went about 10 minutes. These women were put on early in the show, and I'm happy that they were, because these two women actually really showed up and showed out. And it really goes to show two things. It goes to show you that Julia Hart's improvement has been a beautiful thing to see. And number two, Chris Statlander is a fucking beast. Statlander is an absolute fucking beast in every sense of the word. He's really making a strong case. Even though she was out for the first half of the year, she's making a strong case why she can be considered in the conversation for Wrestler of the Year. She's AEW's women's workhorse. She's out there every week defending the championship, putting on great matches, running through the competition. She's looked very strong, and I'm very pleased with what we've been getting from Chris Statlander.
Chris Moxley.
What'd you say?
I called her Chris Moxley.
Chris Moxley. I mean, I don't know, because I don't think she bleeds every 2 minutes into a match, but we'll probably get into that when she starts wrestling in some more hardcore matches.
I just mean in terms of like being the workhorse, you know.
Well, if anything, if I was going to tell you who the workhorse was, I was looking at Cassidy this year, because Cassidy, my God, Cassidy's had that. He's had one of the best title reigns in company history. Cassidy outperformed Roman this year. I don't give a fuck what anyone says. Orange Cassidy outperformed Roman post-WrestleMania. Cassidy made Roman look like an amateur.
Cassidy wrestled a lot of matches this year.
32 title defenses.
That's crazy, man.
So, Statlander took advantage early on. Julia Hart then with a Hurricane Rana. Very nicely done, by the way. It was like Julia Hart was hoisted up in an electric chair, right, by Statlander, and then in one fluid motion, Statlander turned her around, and Julia delivered a Hurricane Rana. That was very nicely done. So we had a nice vertical suplex by Statlander. Statlander then climbed the steps with Julia on her shoulders. Hart took over and sent Statlander right into the barricade. Statlander then with a power slam, running knee right in the corner, and a blue thunder bomb that got a 2 count. Brody then got in Statlander's face. Julia Hart went for the mist, but Statlander slapped her and the mist went to the side. So no mist in the face of Statlander. Statlander and Julia were then up top. Julia then with a beel, she grabbed Statlander by the neck and beeled her backwards over the top, and then she hung upside down. She went for the moonsault. She got the moonsault on the money. It was picture perfect, right on the money. I thought she was going to win. Statlander got her foot on the bottom rope. Julia was distraught. The crowd was chanting, "This is awesome." Statlander was then locked in the Heartless Lock. Statlander powered through it, reversed it, got her in a tombstone position, delivered the tombstone pile driver, picked her back up, hooked the leg. Sunday Night Fever. Statlander retains the TBS championship. Statlander showcases just how good she is, and this was easily Julia Hart's best career match to date. And if anything, we already have Willow Nightingale and Sky Blue being built up as the next top-tier young aspects. I think we can add Julia Hart to that, because Julia Hart has absolutely killed it. And I actually like the fact that they were continuing to push the House of Black on TV with Julia Hart and Brody King, while Buddy Matthews was in Australia and Malachi was recovering from a torn calf. That's why they were out. They were out because Buddy was spending some time with Rhea, which, by the way, congratulations on their engagement. And then Malachi, he was dealing with a minor injury. I believe that they're ready to come back. So if I'm not mistaken, we could very well see the House of Black on TV at some point again in the coming weeks. And if you ask me, I would love to see them in a feud with the Blackpool Combat Club. I think that would be fantastic. But the match with Julia Hart and Chris Statlander was very good. Women showed up tonight. I actually wish it could have gone a little bit longer, but Julia Hart is not at that stage yet, but for where she is right now, she's very good. Statlander retains like she should, and Statlander continues her very, very good TBS Championship title reign. Should be interesting to see what comes of Chris Statlander in the future. As for Julia Hart, I think that she's going to be a background player for the time being, simply because of the fact that the motive here and the main stars are going to be Malachi, Buddy Matthews, and Brody King, because the House of Black, they're going to be in full form sooner rather than later. HooliGrim, what you got for me?
It's crazy that one of my biggest takeaways over the weekend, in between NXT No Mercy and WrestleDream, when I keep thinking about what I saw over the past weekend, very quickly coming to mind are these two young women, Tiffany Stratton and Julia Hart. Ironically enough, both of these women combined don't even have 5 years of TV time and experience being on TV in matches. And both of these girls have nailed picture perfect moonsaults that make anything Charlotte Flair has done off the top rope look shameful and disgraceful. And
Dude, Charlotte can't even do a fucking crossbody correctly. Oh my God.
I'm being like, I'm not using hyperbole. I'm not over exaggerating. Like, when I say that, I legitimately mean those two moonsaults that Tiffany Stratton executed in a row in her match look like she's been wrestling for years and years.
She landed on her face on a steel chair.
And the spot that the bump she took on the pile of chairs. Oh, I mean, forget that her what does she call her moonsault?
The prettiest moonsault ever.
Prettiest moonsault ever. Okay. It was, when she was doing that moonsault, I was looking at her form and everything, and I'm like, wow, that's almost better looking in terms of technicality than Io Shirai's, who's got a phenomenal moonsault. But when she landed flat and had her arms out and took them chairs on her chin, that was more impressive than the actual moonsault itself to me. And Julia Hart also, her moonsault, I'm like, how many times do you think Charlotte Flair's done a moonsault in her life, in her career? Like,
I have a lot of room to work with.
How can you not? It's almost like every time Charlotte Flair does a moonsault, it looks worse than the last time I saw her do a moonsault. How is that possible?
Never mind her crossbody. Oh my God.
Julia Hart and Tiffany Stratton's aerial maneuvers are coming along very nicely.
Yeah. Those two women should easily be the future of the business. I see big things for both.
And I wasn't big on Julia Hart like you were, and I think JD was also been big on Julia Hart. I
wasn't big on Julia Hart. I just saw her as a manager.
Like, when she was with the Varsity Blondes, I thought, okay, they're going the like copycat Alexa Bliss route, which they didn't really do because she wasn't really a talking piece when she was with the Varsity Blondes. She was just kind of there. And then they transitioned her to the House of Black, which was a great move on their part. And it's allowed her to start to get into her own and kind of figure herself out and the direction that she's headed in the industry, which has been a very surprising from my perspective, has been surprising because she was not somebody that I was looking at when I first saw her. I wasn't thinking, like in a year and a half from now, we're going to be talking about the match she had with the one of the champions in the company. So props to her, big time.
So, who can you see taking the title off of Statlander before we move on?
I know in the media.
I don't know. I wouldn't mind Tony.
Tony Storm is believable.
I wouldn't mind Willow. I wouldn't mind if they have Willow beat Athena, and then Athena and Chris Statlander, they mix it up, because holy shit, like, that is a match of the year candidate for the women waiting to happen right there.
I was going to say, in the media scrum, Chris Statlander brought up Athena, and because one of the reporters was asking her who she's looking forward to facing within the company and outside of the company, and the first name out of her mouth was Athena. And Athena's so good. Like, she's got to get to weekly television, and having a feud with Statlander would be a nice thing to see. I think that they'd have some killer matches.
Right now, though, like, I don't even know who the fuck is going to beat Athena, because Athena right now, dude, she's running through everyone. Diamante, Mercedes Martinez, Yuka Sakazaki, Willow Nightingale, Angelina Love, and she's fighting legit Layla Hirsch next week on Ring of Honor. Billy Starks, Sky Blue, Kiera Hogan, dude, she's beating everybody.
So we got a Billy Starks on one company and a Zoe Starks on the other. Is that right?
Zoe Starka.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I didn't know if they were related or what.
On AEW television.
I prefer Tony Stark, but that's just me.
Well, we'll talk about Ricky Starks in a little bit because his match is coming up. Fatal 4-Way, #1 contenders match for a shot at the AEW World Tag Team titles. This was Young Bucks, the Guns, the Lucha Brothers, and Orange Cassidy and Hook. Some people were fearful of Rey Fenix because he was not seen throughout the rest of the match. According to reports, I believe from Alvarez, Phoenix is okay. Phoenix is okay. The injury was not legit. It was an angle because they want to protect him because he's got a match with Matt Jackson on not Matt Jackson, Nick Jackson.
Yeah.
Nick Jackson on the 4-year anniversary of Dynamite for the international title, and he was a little banged up. So they wanted to protect him, which I completely understand. And if anything, I do give them props for looking out for his health. But this match was very fun, very chaotic. I just didn't understand the outcome. It had the absolute wrong outcome. And there was 2 reasons that I could think of as to why the Bucks won this. One reason was put to bed later on in the night. The second reason, I kind of get where they're coming from. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but I really don't like the fact that it had to be the Bucks. And here's the thing: the Bucks have actually been very good in the last year. The Bucks have the Elite in general, like Hangman and Omega, Matt and Nick. Dude, they've been putting everyone over this past year. The Young Bucks put over Top Flight, and then they put over Bullet Club Gold. They put over FTR. They put over House of Black. Kenny Omega put over Will Ospreay. He put over Takeshita twice, 3 times actually, if you want to count WrestleDream. Hangman Page put over Swerve. Hangman hasn't been a champion in a year. The only real type of traction that the Elite ever even got this year was the fact that they were the Ring of Honor World 6-Man Tag Team Champions. They beat the Mogul Embassy. Which you kind of had to think that had to happen because who was going to beat the Mogul Embassy? And the Mogul Embassy are needed on AEW TV anyway. But I really don't understand why the Young Bucks won this. But the match itself was very fun, very chaotic. So Cassidy and Phoenix mixed it up a bit. Phoenix was sent into the barricade, and he was never seen again. So the Guns then attacked. The crowd was chanting "Ass Boys," and it was pretty loud. Loud "Ass Boys" chant. We had a drop kick by Colton. Colton, I gotta say, dude, Colton has a very nice drop kick. Very, very nice. Cassidy then tagged in Hook. He stood toe-to-toe with Matt Jackson. They traded Northern Lights suplexes back and forth. We had a T-bone suplex by Hook. Double suplex by Cassidy and Hook to the Guns. Penta then lit up the Guns. The Guns then isolated Hook. We had Austin, he took out all of the illegal man. He took out all the illegal man on the outside. Hook then tagged in Penta. Penta then with a sling blade on Austin and Colton. A DDT on Colton. Backstabber on Austin. Super kick on Colton. Super kick on Austin. Made in Japan or made in Penta. Austin Gunn saved it. We had a DDT by Matt Jackson on Austin Gunn. Satellite DDT by Cassidy. Facebuster by Nick Jackson on Austin. Moonsault on Cassidy. Tope Con Hero by Penta onto Colton and the Bucks. Hook and Cassidy took over. Orange Punch. Red Rum. Nick Jackson made the blind tag onto Austin. And as Hook had the Red Rum locked in on Austin Gunn, Nick Jackson with a 450 onto both men, which looked very, very nice. That got a 2 count. We had some double team action, pile drivers, and a widow's peak. It was this crazy move right here. So Penta had Cassidy in a pile driver, and he had Hook on his back. Nick Jackson came off the top and drop kicked Penta, and Penta delivered a pile driver, a package pile driver, and a widow's peak at the same time, which looked crazy. Afterwards, the Bucks hit a BTE trigger, and the Bucks win it. Fun match. Very fun, very chaotic, and it was probably the second best match on the show, right behind Kingston and Shibata up until this point. I just really don't understand why the Bucks won. Now, the first reason I thought of was, okay, you know what? Maybe we're going to get new AEW World Tag Team Champions. Maybe Aussie Open are going to beat FTR, and maybe we're going to build towards Aussie Open and the Young Bucks at Full Gear, which, let me tell you something. If Aussie Open won, I would have marked out. I'm a big Aussie Open guy. You already know this. So I was talking about it with you on the Death Before Dishonor rewind when Aussie Open won the Ring of Honor World Tag Team titles. I'm still kind of pissed that they didn't get a legit reign with them. But I'm a big Aussie Open guy. I would have marked out if Aussie Open won. That didn't happen. The second reason that I can think of is, well, you know what? They got Title Tuesday coming up on October 10th. And on Title Tuesday, you got Saraya and Hikaru Shida for the women's title. And they just announced Adam Copeland versus Luchasaurus. And that's going to be Adam Copeland's debut. I don't know about you, but maybe they're trying to build up that show so that way they can get a solid amount of ratings on that show. And the third big match that they're going to put on that show is FTR Young Bucks part number 4. That's the only reason. That's the only other reason that I can think of. Other than that, I do not know why the Bucks won. If anything, I would have either given it to the Guns or I would have given it to Orange Cassidy and Hook. I really don't want to say that the Young Bucks are becoming the new day of the AEW World Tag Team division, because here's the thing. They've only won the tag team titles twice. It's not like the New Day where they were fucking 12-time tag team champions within a fucking 5-year time period. It's not like that. But after being so good this year, it's very, very hard for me to see the Bucks in a position where they're fighting for the titles again, especially after what happened at Wembley. I understand that FTR and the Bucks, they're going to be a fight forever type of feud. That program is never going to end. They're going to fight for as long as they can. For as long as FTR is employed, for as long as FTR can go, for as long as the Bucks can go, they're going to ride that motherfucker till the wheels fall off. But I really don't understand why it had to happen so soon after Wembley. Very, very odd. And that was probably the second biggest negative on the show, minus the 0 hour. But I'm going to throw it over to you.
Yeah, unfortunately, the outcome of this match left a sour taste in my mouth.
Good match, but again, I really don't understand why the Bucks won.
The outcome completely took away from how fun that match was and how chaotic
I wouldn't go that far.
I would, and I'm gonna, because to me, now, let me start this off when I say that when AEW started gaining momentum and they first became a thing, they first got on TV, the first Funko Pops I ever bought were the Young Bucks. Really? I got more Young Bucks t-shirts than any other AEW wrestler.
I'm going to get Ciampa right now. Now, this would be a great match. DIY versus the Bucks. I want to see that.
So, coming into AEW, I was a big Young Bucks guy. I'm no longer a fan of the Bucks. I 100% believe with every fiber in my body, after some of the stuff I read online regarding the whole CM Punk fiasco, I believe that they used their status as EVPs to set Phil Brooks up, and that's knowing his ego and his anger being so easily triggered. I feel like they knew they had a game plan and they knew exactly how to get him out of the company, and because of that, I think when I watch their matches now, I don't view them the same as I used to. I haven't worn any of their shirts since all this drama happened. I I felt like if they took more accountability for some of the things that transpired with them making fun of CM Punk, botching moves in the ring, for Adam Page going off script in promos.
Well, Adam Page, I will say this. Adam Page feels like he's the only one that's learned anything from this because he made a mistake.
Because he's
then
kept his mouth shut.
Yeah, he kept his mouth shut. He just showed up to work and did his job.
If he received,
I guess you could say Omega did the same thing because Omega's been fine.
and here's the thing. Here's the difference between Omega and the Young Bucks, because I don't think Adam Page is an EVP. He might be, but I don't think he is.
Well, here's another thing you have to remember before I let you finish. The Bucks and Omega, they're only EVPs and titles. The Bucks are in charge of merch, and Omega's in charge of the video game aspect. They don't necessarily have political power. Yes, they're friends with Tony Khan, but Tony Khan ultimately makes the final decision in the end. And I did read reports on this.
Okay, well, if you actually believe that they don't have any political power, then you're sadly mistaken.
I think Tony Khan does favor them a bit because he's friends with him, but I don't think that they have political power like that. Because if they did, I honestly do believe that they would have been tag team champions again, like at least 5 times already.
I don't agree with that, but that's neither here nor there. The Young Bucks continue to put themselves over in situations that they have absolutely no business going over in. There's no need for us to be watching FTR versus the Bucks 4 unless, like you said, at Title Tuesday or whenever their match is supposed to be. No, you said Title Tuesday. It was Nick and Ray Phoenix.
No. Dynamite 4-year anniversary. That's this Wednesday. That's
right.
Nick Phoenix. Title Tuesday. That's next Tuesday, October 10th.
Okay, and it's on Tuesday, right? Yeah, because something's going on TBS. Oh, the Major League Baseball playoffs, I think, are starting, and that's why they moved it to Tuesday. But if Aussie Open's going to interfere and screw that match over to get themselves put in the mix for the titles, okay. But other than that,
I can see the Guns interfering.
I would have been okay with anybody else winning this match. Literally, I wouldn't have cared if Cassidy and Hook won. I wouldn't have cared if the Guns won. It didn't matter to me. The Bucks winning was absolutely ridiculous and unnecessary, and I just really don't want to talk about them anymore.
Yeah, I really don't understand why they won this match, especially after they beat the Mogul Embassy, which that was fine. That was a completely different scenario than this tag team match right here, because the Mogul Embassy legit ran through everyone. So if they beat the Young Bucks, then they pretty much would have been looked at in the same realm as Roman Reigns. Like no one was going to beat him. Like no one, like who's beating Roman outside of Cody? But then again, even so, like Roman Reigns is in a position where he's virtually untouchable, and they're looking to have him break Hulk Hogan's record. Then you take a look at the Mogul Embassy. If they beat the Hung Bucks, that pretty much would have solidified them as, all right, no one's going to beat these motherfuckers. That was a different scenario. This scenario, again, I really don't understand why they won this match.
Me either.
It's very, very confusing, to be quite honest with you. And I really don't want to compare them to a New Day. I don't want to compare them to a Charlotte Flair. But you have so many other tag teams. I feel like this is just a desperation at a ratings attempt on Title Tuesday, which, again, I kind of understand. But at the same point in time, why did it have to happen so soon after Wembley? If you wanted to do another FTR Young Bucks match, I mean, why didn't you just wait until next year's Wembley? You could have built that up, and maybe you could have built you could have built a similar feud to Rock and Austin, how they fought at 3 WrestleManias in a row. You could have built up FTR and the Bucks. Oh, hey, these guys are competing at 3 all-ins in a row. Who's going to get the advantage here? It's going to be the all-in trilogy. Why couldn't you have just built that up? Besides, this feud between the Bucks and FTR, it doesn't need a championship. This feud could headline a pay-per-view without a championship 8 times out of the week, twice on Sundays. Very, very weird.
It doesn't need to happen, period. We've already seen it 3 times.
Well, to be fair, all those 3 times were very, very separated from each other. As long as we're not getting it every week like the fucking Judgment Day versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, I'm all right with seeing it, but it didn't need to happen this soon. It really didn't. And it's very, very weird because Page and Omega, they've done everything right to try and help correct themselves from the fuck-ups that they made. Page especially. Omega, he made a fuck-up at All Out, and ever since then, he's just been trying to remain drama-free. I really don't know what the problem is with the Young Bucks. And the Young Bucks, if anything, the Young Bucks are kind of bringing themselves down to Punk's level because Punk looks like a hypocrite, but the Bucks, they're not doing themselves any favors whatsoever. But both parties are acting childish. And
I was going to say, for your comments that you've made recently about CM Punk regarding his ego, I would in turn say the Young Bucks have every bit as big of an ego as CM Punk does, for real.
It really is coming off like that. Honest to God, it really is coming off like that.
Facts.
But moving on here, we got ourselves, to me, I mean, this was my personal match of the night. I don't know about you, but dude, everything from the in-ring action, the story, the crowd, everything that went into this match, especially the build-up, because I thought that this match was probably the best built-up match going into WrestleDream. It was Hangman Adam Page and Swerve Strickland, and there was no championship on the line here. It was just two guys going in there, doing their normal shit, wrestling, and it was a story that was built up because Swerve was getting in Hangman's face, saying that over the last year, Hangman's gotten complacent. Like, ever since his feud with Moxley ended, Hangman got complacent, and he was okay with reuniting with his friends in the Elite against the Blackpool Combat Club, and he was okay with tag teaming with Omega and Ibushi, and Swerve said he wanted the spot that Hangman has. And it was a very, very simple, straightforward story. The promos between the two were very, very good. And if anything, it had even more heat because they were in Swerve's home area. They were in Seattle, which is like 20 minutes away from Tacoma, which made the match even better. So Swerve, he came out. Nana was doing the dance, and I don't know what it is, but the fact that Swerve comes out there and he's just fucking stone-faced, and he's walking around, he's looking around, he's not smiling, he's not laughing, he's just looking around with this blank expression, stone-faced, and Nana's behind him going, I don't know what it is, but dude, I fucking love that shit. Shit is fantastic. So he took the mic and he goes, whose house? And the crowd goes, Swerve's house. Page was booed, which I expected because, look, with how good Swerve has been and making his return in his home area, of course Hangman was going to be booed. So crowd was chanting, Hangman sucks, and Page actually exhibited some heel tendencies in this match. And if there was one takeaway from this match, besides the fact that it was a fantastic match, is the fact that I think Hangman could be one hell of a heel if they want to turn him heel and they want to experiment with him as a heel. Because as of right now, they've just been portraying him as a no-nonsense, badass babyface. But if they want to turn him heel, he's got the makings of a very, 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 very sadistic heel. I don't know what it is. He just has that vibe. I believe my dad and I, we were talking about this. He's not that old either. He's like 31. He's got plenty of years left in him. My dad and I were talking about this, and my dad said he's got like the makings of someone who could be their Randy Orton. Like he's a good baby face when he wants to be, but my dad sees him as a sadistic heel in the making. Like, if they want to experiment with that, my dad was telling me how I see this guy being a Randy Orton style heel if they want to turn him heel, and in turn that can make him a bigger babyface when they do turn him babyface again. I don't know what it is, but he's kind of, when he's angry, he's kind of got that douchebag look. So if anything, I would not mind if they do experiment with Hangman as a heel, probably in the coming years. But Swerve was in firm control. Page hit a fallaway slam, springboard lariat, fans booed. Page with a pop-up powerbomb on the apron. He kept the grip and powerbomb Swerve on the barricade, which looked brutal. Beautiful Orihara moonsault, and then a pop-up Liger bomb in the ring. Another tope suicida by Hangman. Page then bounced Swerve's head off of the steps. Page hit a rolling elbow. Swerve with an enziguri. Page with a German suplex, rolling flatliner, and a beautiful brainbuster by Swerve. Excellent sequence right there by both men. Backbreaker by Swerve. Both men up on top. Swerve with the Swerve stomp in the Tree of Woe position. House call connects, and Hangman's head ricocheted like a fucking bobblehead. It looked nasty. Page kicked out. So both men were now on the apron. Page was then sent neck first into the turnbuckle rod. Page then with a dead eye on the steps. Beautifully done. Page then had Swerve back in the ring. They were trading slaps. And then Page hit Swerve's hand. Swerve's hand was actually the story of this match. Swerve, I believe he had his hand crushed by Hangman or stomped by Hangman. I can't remember where he injured his hand, but I believe it was the left hand that was the problem for Swerve. So then Page went for the buckshot, but it was countered. Swerve then beat Hangman's arm, and he then snapped his arm back, which I really couldn't keep my eyes on this. I really couldn't keep my eyes on this for much longer. Because, I think I may have turned away at the last second, but then I ended up watching it back on social media. Hangman's arm went, his arm touched his back. I think his arm may have touched his back. I know that Penta does the arm snap, but when Penta does the arm snap, it actually looks a lot safer than what Swerve did. I don't know if I heard a pop or not, but
I swear I did, bro. I swear I heard it.
I don't know how the fuck.
I don't know if Swerve snuck in like a thigh slap to make that sound or what, because I didn't see him do it. But I agree with what you said. I thought of Penta and him and Lucha Underground doing the arm snap, and I thought whatever Swerve just did looked way more disgusting and way more realistic looking.
It made Penta look like fucking child's play.
Yeah, it looked like he really. When I see people getting their arms like in chicken wings and stuff, and I don't know, man, that it was tough to.
Through joint manipulation.
I mean, as he was building up to snapping that arm, I was like, oh no. And then when he did the motion, I looked away, bro, because I have a hard time watching people's limbs snap, bro. I can't do it.
Page has got some balls to take that shit. If they went over that, Page has got some balls on him to take that shit. Because you want to talk about a sinister heel. I mean, what Swerve was doing last night was incredible. Swerve's amazing. Swerve's fucking great. So Swerve said, fuck this. Fuck the doctors. So Doc Samson was trying to check on Adam Page. Swerve said, fuck this. Swerve stomp on the apron. Crowd was chanting, holy shit. Swerve then with a 450 on the arm, which looked even more brutal. He snapped the arm, and then he does a fucking 450 on the fucking arm. Page kicked out. I don't know fucking how.
Me either.
So, armbar locked in. Page got his leg on the bottom rope. Page then with a huge, and I mean a huge lariat. Swerve tried for the armbar. Page got out. Snap German by Swerve. Swerve stomp missed. Buckshot lariat, but Page did it with the bad arm. He could not capitalize. He covered. Nana put Swerve's foot on the rope. The referee ejected Prince Nana. Page then went out to go shoo Prince Nana away. Back in the ring, Swerve hit Adam Page with Prince Nana's crown that had the jewels on it. We thought that was it. And Swerve kicked out again. Excellent near fall. All of a sudden, Swerve then says, all right, if this motherfucker wants to stay alive, all right, I'm just going hog wild and I'm going WWE 2K online player. House call. Second house call. Hook the arm. JML driver. 1, 2, 3. Swerve Strickland wins what was easily the biggest match of his life, and perhaps the best Swerve Strickland match that I have ever fucking seen. Swerve Strickland has carried himself like a main event talent all year. This has been a great year for him, and dude, he hasn't even won any titles yet. And if he's this good in the position that he's in right now, I would not be opposed if Swerve is a challenger for MJF. Hell, I wouldn't even be opposed if Swerve beats MJF. If there's one guy that can become the first black AEW world champion, Swerve is the perfect guy, dude. Swerve has just excelled at everything that he has done. This year has been a breakout year for him. And Page, he did everything that he needed to do to get Swerve over. I know you don't like him, man, but at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, Adam Page, you can always rely on him to deliver a banger match. And on top of that, when it comes time to do the job, Hangman Page is more than willing to go out of his way to do the job. And he did everything that he needed to do to get Swerve over. This was a fucking excellent match. Match of the year candidate for sure. It's going to be very, very hard for me because there's a lot of matches coming from AEW side of things that I'm going to have to think about what I want to put on my top 10 for the year. But man, this match is up there. And it was a mega victory for Swerve. I could not be happier, and I could not be proud of both of these guys. And Swerve, guy's a fucking stud.
There's a number of things for me with this match. I don't know if I'd say it was the best Swerve match I've seen because still to this date, his Weapons of Mass Destruction match that he had in Lucha Underground with Marty the Moth is still some of the most insane shit I've seen in wrestling to this day, all these years later. But it was my favorite match that of Swerve's in AEW by far. And you know, here's the thing with Adam Page and me. Last night, I was kind of upset actually because I'm sitting there watching the match and I'm going, God damn it. Like as much shit as I talk about Adam Page on social media, and I just feel like he's such a smarmy little whiny, like I don't like him as a babyface. I think it just rubs me the wrong way and he comes off incredibly cringe. And I think that's really the basis of it. And I think that mentality that I had towards him was interfering with it was biasing my opinion of him from a wrestling standpoint. And last night I'm watching his match and I'm going, damn it. This might be actually my favorite Adam Page match that I've seen in AEW.
Better than the Moxley Texas Death match back at Revolution, because that was up there.
That was pretty good too, actually. But in recent memory, I'm watching this match and I'm going, I can't really talk shit about his in-ring work tonight. Like, I feel like he botches a lot as a male wrestler. I feel like he botches a lot. I wouldn't call him a ring general. I don't think he's an MJF type where you can put him in the ring and he can make anything better. But I have to be
fair, dude. Every match that he's had, like every major match that he's had, whether it be Omega or Brian Cage or Lance Archer or Bryan, even Punk, dude. Like every match that he's had, he's put on great matches with everyone. Look, everyone's gonna botch every now and then, but when it comes down to it, he can deliver a great match with every single major star that he steps into the ring with.
I don't know if my praise for him would go that high, but what he did last night can't be ignored. And I just want to shout out again, my people from Seattle, man.
They were hot.
This is where it starts to get to be in the show where it's like, once this match happened, I'm like, holy shit, that's going to be match of the night. No questions asked, like bar none. And then we get another match of the year candidate and then another one, which we'll get into. But Seattle chanting "fuck you, cowboy" gave me the biggest warm and fuzzy feeling inside because they started that chant off pretty early in the match before they got to the Hangman sucks. It was "fuck you, cowboy." And I was just like, oh, this is great. I love this already. And that swerve stomp off the top rope to the apron. The first thing I jumped off of my bed and was like, suck on that, Finn Balor. Like, holy shit, you better start Like I know
Make Finn Balor look like a fucking amateur.
like Finn Balor's been doing the coup de grace for so many years. I think a lot of times it just, he's trying to be safe with it and everything, but a lot of the time recently, it doesn't have the impact. It's not done. It's not executed on the main roster like he executed it when he was in NXT. And that swerve stomp off the top rope when he came down on Adam Page and then dropped all of his weight on and fell on top of him after the stomp. My God, man, I was like, holy shit.
Dude, that was rough, man. But
that was an epic match for sure. And I was so happy for Swerve, him being the home. Because, it's not often that we get a pay-per-view where 3 of the matches are hometown guys. So in my head, I'm going, okay, how's Tony Khan going to break this up? Like, clearly not all 3 hometown guys are going to lose. But what's he going to do? Have all of them win? Is that really believable? I didn't know how it was going to play out.
In the main event. And we'll talk about that. But I actually had Darby winning. Like, as the match went on, like, I wanted Darby to win.
And I saw all 3 of the Seattle guys winning their matches. So I'm thinking they can't. Huh?
Who was the third one? Darby, Swerve, and
Bryan Danielson.
Oh, yeah. Duh. Wow.
So I'm thinking there's no way Bryan Danielson's going to lose. I didn't think he was going to lose to Zack Sabre. I didn't think Swerve was.
Swerve was going to lose. Darby was probably the most prone to losing, but I still didn't think he was going to lose.
Well, and like I said at the beginning, I wasn't one of the ones that was convinced that Adam Copeland was going to show up. So with that mindset, I thought there's no way Darby's losing in Seattle. So I thought, okay, one of them's got to give. It's obviously got to be Swerve. So I go into the match thinking, okay, this is probably the one that's going to lose the hometown fight. And the way it played out, I was, man, what a great match by both those guys. Props to Adam Page because he is not my cup of tea and I am not a big fan of his. And I got nothing but respect for what he did last night. Excellent match. That's really all it boils down to. It was both those guys brought it and then some.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind the second match.
Me either, actually. I can't even believe I'm saying that about a Hangman Adam Page match, but
I hope they continue this feud for the rest of the year. Guys, I hope that we get a fucking unsanctioned match between these guys.
It's very telling, and I know you didn't watch the scrum. I really urge you to watch at least Christian Cage, Bryan Danielson, and Swerve on the media scrum, especially Swerve. If you just listen to what he says when he's up there at the desk talking, you can kind of start to read between the lines of what he's getting at in terms of what you brought out, being the first Black AEW world champion, his name being thrown in the mix with the top guys of the company, with he mentioned Moxley and MJF and all the names that are at the top. His interview, like his media scrum session was awesome. Just listening to him talking, I'm so happy. Like he's been through it in terms of going through Lucha Underground and then NXT and being just absolutely wasted over there in WWE. And it's so good to see that someone's finally getting their just due after all the years that they've been putting in.
Dude, Swerve is going to be a megastar. If 2023 is a breakout year for him, 2024 is he's going to be up there for Wrestler of the Year next year.
Yeah.
Ricky Starks and Wheeler Yuta. This was the next match following this match with Swerve and Hangman. And these two did fine. I'm not going to throw it out there that, oh, yeah, this match sucked. It didn't suck. The problem was, especially after the Hangman Swerve match, dude, no one was following that match. Absolutely nobody was following Swerve and Hangman.
I actually felt bad, not to cut you off, sorry, real quick, but I actually felt bad because when I think about it, and I made the comment to my buddy, Ricky Starks seems to, unfortunately, his matches always seem to have to go right after a banger.
Well, to be fair, like Ricky Starks has had some solid matches this year. He's had some solid matches with Jericho. He had 2 very good matches with Jay White. He had 2 very good matches with Punk. He had he probably had the match of the night at All Out with Bryan. And then you get this match. Here's the thing. I had a feeling that it was going to be Ricky and Moxley for the international title. I think that was where they were building towards. but Moxley got hurt and Phoenix had to win the title. So they threw Wheeler in there because they didn't want to leave Ricky Starks off the pay-per-view. And to be fair, he needed a pay-per-view win. So that's pretty much where this came in. Not to say it was a bad match. They were put in a very tough spot. They did fine, but in the end, this flew under the radar because of how good Swerve and Hangman was.
And I honestly feel like just by default, because of the placement of the match and the match that we got before, the match we got before it, unfortunately for me, one of the matches was going to have to be the piss break match because I was starving and I had to go get some dinner. And unfortunately, it had to be this match. So I was driving and kind of like looking down at my phone when I was at red lights, just catching glimpses of the match. So I didn't really see the full match in its entirety, to be honest.
It was a decent 10-minute match. It wasn't too crazy. It did what it needed to do. So there was some chain wrestling early on. The crowd was fairly okay, but they were lukewarm. They were into it towards the ending portions of the match, but they were pretty lukewarm. Moxley still on commentary. Starks then with some stiff punches. So it's not like they bored the crowd to tears because they were getting physical with some punches and some stiff chops. Ricky with a old school tightrope walk. Nice suplex for a 2. Belly to belly by Starks. Wheeler then came in with a flying forearm off the top and an Olympic slam for a 2. Out came Big Bill. Starks with a tornado DDT. That got a 2. Yuta then was caught with a power bomb, and Ricky Starks put a lot of muster on that power bomb. That was very nice. Yuta then with the hammer and anvil elbows. Ricky with the hammer and anvil elbows, and Yuta was not happy. Yuta then with some forearms and chops. Starks with a lariat. Starks went up top. Yuta then shoved Starks into Big Bill. Yuta then sent Big Bill into the post. Hammer and anvil elbows on Starks. Seatbelt pin by Wheeler. Starks kicked out. Starks then with the spear and the Rochambeau. 1, 2, 3. Starks with the win while he stared down Jon Moxley. So I'm assuming that Jon Moxley and Ricky Starks is probably going to be a matchup that could very well be headlining Full Gear, which I would not mind whatsoever. I think that is another match that Ricky Starks is in need of to take him up a few notches. I think that Ricky Starks and Jon Moxley would absolutely tear the house down at Full Gear. And I do have to shout out Ricky Starks as well, because Ricky Starks, he's been having a pretty damn good year, and he hasn't won any titles at all. But he's been getting some big wins, competing in some big-time matches. He won the Owen Hart Cup tournament. He had a great match with Bryan at All Out. And tonight he gets a much-needed pay-per-view win. But in the end, I don't want to say it was a down point, but this flew under the radar, and no one was really talking about it in the end. You know what it kind of reminded me of? It reminded me of the Kyle O'Reilly Darby Allin match that we got at Double or Nothing 2022. Great match. It's just the crowd was just drained.
It didn't need to happen. There's so many matches on between the 0 hour and the main card. Right before the show started, when they were talking about all the matches that were happening, I'm like, Jesus Lord, is it going to be a 6 hour pay-per-view or what?
I mean, to be fair, the show flew by for me.
It did. Now, I will say, in its entirety, as it happened, I looked at the clock, and I was like, "Oh shit, we've already been watching for 2 hours." Like it felt like 10 minutes.
Oh, dude. They have really gotten their time management very, very solid for their pay-per-views, dude.
Yeah, it's been better.
No pay-per-view has surpassed 12 a.m. No pay-per-view has. Like the pay-per-views usually end like between 11:45 and 11:55. Like Tony Khan has done a very good job managing the time of his pay-per-views. But if you were going to put this match on the show, you should have put this match on 0 hour, and it should have been a 3-match card for 0 hour. Starks and Yuta, Nick Wayne, Luchasaurus, and then the trios match. That should have been on 0 hour. From there, we move into the Technical Wrestling Dream match. And speaking of crazy times, we've been going for 2.5 hours, and we got about 3 more matches to talk about after this match. Zack Sabre Jr. and Bryan Danielson. And I'm going to throw it out there. Like I said, technical wrestling is not for me. But I really do have to say that Bryan Danielson and Zack Sabre Jr., they made me extremely invested in every move that they were doing just because of how seamlessly they transitioned from move to move and how intense and physical it got down the home stretch. And it was physical. I feel as though the Josh Barnett and Claudio match was kind of sloppy at times from a technical standpoint. From a physical standpoint, it was fine. From a technical standpoint, it was very sloppy. But this match, dude, everything was smooth as fucking butter. It was like as smooth as, you know, you throw water on the floor and you toss a baseball on it and the baseball just rolls right through the water on a slick hardwood floor. That's pretty much how it is. Or if you take socks, you put socks on and you slide across a hardwood floor, smooth as that. That's how this match was. So the crowd was chanting, "This is awesome," and the match didn't even start yet. They didn't even lock up. Zack Sabre Jr. went for the injured arm, and I believe that they mentioned that there's a steel rod in that arm. So we had a lot of back and forth Romero stretches and stiff uppercuts, stomps to the arms, single leg crabs. The crowd was chanting, "This is wrestling." Bryan Danielson then with the hammer and anvil elbows on the top rope, and then he delivered an avalanche butterfly suplex. Double Fujiwara armbar and a single leg Boston Crab. Sabre got to the ropes. Bryan with the yes kicks. Now it started to really amp up. Big roundhouse kick to the head. Bryan then went for the Busaiko knee. They traded back and forth roll-ups and counters. The European clutch by Zack Sabre Jr., but Bryan was able to kick out. Everyone stood up. Everyone stood up and started clapping. The crowd was chanting, "This is awesome. This is awesome." We had a double armbar by Sabre, and this looked brutal. This looked not as brutal as what Swerve did to Hangman, but it looked just as brutal. It was a double Fujiwara where Bryan's arms and shoulders were pretty much bent out of shape right behind his body. Crowd was chanting, "Fight forever." Bryan then spit in Sabre's face. Bryan slapped Sabre silly. Both men with kick after kick. Bryan then with back elbows, a Michinoku driver by Sabre, double omoplata armbar. Double omoplata armbar, beautifully done. Danielson would not tap. I don't know how he survived. I probably would have tapped out after that. Bryan got his leg on the rope. Sabre then with kicks to the chest, roundhouse kick to the head, another armbar by Sabre, regal plex by Bryan, Busaiko knee, Sabre kicked out. Bryan then with a second Busaiko knee, 1, 2, 3, and Bryan Danielson puts down Zack Sabre Jr. in an absolute technical masterpiece, a technical war, if I've ever fucking seen one. Pro wrestling at its finest. Probably one of the best technical pro wrestling matches of all time. Not really my thing, but when it comes to Bryan and when it comes to Sabre, what they did, smooth as I've ever seen, very physical, very intense, and the Bryan Danielson retirement tour is off to one hell of a start. Bryan Danielson actually went to shake Sabre's hand. Sabre would not do it. So it looks like we're going to get a second match, probably at Wrestle Kingdom on New Japan's turf next year. But man, fantastic technical bout. Absolutely flawless. Bryan and Sabre, they should be very, very proud of themselves. Extremely hard to do some of the things that they do. And I probably would have given up within the first 5 minutes if I was in there being locked in submission hold after submission hold by Zack Sabre Jr. I don't know how Bryan handled it, especially with that rod in his arm. Fantastic stuff. Let me hear it, HooliGrim.
I appreciated Bryan Danielson, pardon me. It's actually funny because on the media scrum last night, I believe MJF called, Kenny Omega called Bryan Danielson Daniel Bryan, and Tony Khan looked at him with like he wanted to kill him. And he goes, "Oh, Bryan Danielson, sorry." And then Tony Khan was like, thank you very much. So that was actually funny. But I appreciated him coming out in the Seattle Seahawks colors just because, got to rep the hometown. But Zack Sabre Jr., is the only guy I've ever seen that wrestles that style, and I can actually watch it and feel entertained by it, because I'm like how you said, I'm not a fan of that type of wrestling, but Zack Sabre Jr. has mastered the art of transitioning from one of those type of moves to another so seamlessly. And like when Pete Dunne was in NXT and NXT UK, I remember that tournament, and when he started doing the finger snapping and pulling, and it was like making me wince and everything, I feel like Zack Sabre Jr. even takes that up to a whole nother notch. I mean, when he starts pulling on limbs and fingers and digits and stuff like that, I mean, you're literally sitting there thinking, okay, he's just going to literally snap his finger off. Like the finger can't bend that much farther before it completely dislodges. And when you put a guy like him in with Bryan Danielson, I mean, there's not enough words in our language to really accurately describe that. Zack Sabre Jr., I became a huge fan of his in the Cruiserweight Classic all those years ago, because I said, I was not a fan. I've never been a fan of that type of wrestling. And the way he pulls it off is, I mean, shout out to Zack Sabre Jr. I didn't think he was going to win the match by any stretch of the imagination, but to be believable enough to have moments in the match where you're going, oh, maybe he can't, maybe he is going to pull this off. No pun intended, because I thought he was going to pull some of Danielson's fingers off, but it was an excellent match. Excellent match. There's nothing that either of them two guys can do. They can't do any wrong in the ring. They really can't.
You know, I actually was thinking about who I want Bryan to face. So he already fought Starks. He already fought Sabre. I would love to see another match with Omega. I would definitely love to see a potential match with, God, who else? There's so many. I swear to God. Omega's definitely got to be on the list. That's definitely got to be on one more list. Swerve would be great.
Adam Copeland.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We got to get that. We got to get him in Christian as well. I would love to see him in Darby. I don't think we've ever seen that.
I don't think Darby. Adam Copeland, I don't think has ever wrestled Bryan Danielson.
No, I believe we were supposed to get it, but then Bryan then went to AEW. Now Adam Copeland's in AEW too.
And I believe Adam on the post, the media scrum last night, they were asking him who he's excited to face. And I believe he mentioned the fact like he's never wrestled Moxley. He's never wrestled. Oh, the first name he spit out. We'll get to that later. But yeah, Adam Copeland and Bryan Danielson would be epic for his retirement tour.
I think that could very well be a match that they could put on Revolution next year.
Yeah,
that'll be good. Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega, and Kota Ibushi. They took on Konosuke Takeshita, Sammy Guevara, and Will Ospreay. Now, I am fair with what I say, and I actually put out a criticism right here. I would not have done a 6-person tag. However, I will say this. The match was excellent. Match was fantastic. Match was hot. But me personally, we just got a 6-person tag team match at All In with Omega, Page, and Ibushi taking on Takeshita and Bullet Club Gold. If anything, I would have done Omega versus Sammy and Takeshita versus Ibushi one-on-one. That would have felt bigger in terms of, okay, this feels like a WrestleDream card. But I cannot take away anything that these 6 guys did in there. This was fun. This was very, very, very lively. The crowd was electric. Ibushi looked great. Takeshita and Omega had some great back and forth. And the right man was pinned by the right individual. And the Don Callis family is establishing themselves as quite the faction. And I'm very, very pleased with how the Don Callis family has been presented. So Ospreay and Jericho mixed it up a bit. We had a 6-way hockey fight. Triple planches by Jericho and Ibushi and Omega. Takeshita then with the Takeshita line, which is probably one of my favorite moves from Takeshita, the leaping Undertaker clothesline. Blue Thunder Bomb on Omega. Swanton Bomb by Sammy. Sammy is so much better as a heel. Ibushi saved it, tagged to Jericho. He lit up Sammy with the double axe handle. He goes, "Come on, baby." We had the abdominal stretch, tag to Ibushi. Ibushi and Jericho did the Le Sex Gods pose, which I actually laughed at. Ibushi then, with a cover off a standing moonsault, that got a 2. Crowd was lively. Ibushi and Omega with double moonsaults to the floor. Lion salt by Jericho on Sammy for a 2. Powerbomb German combo by the Golden Lovers. German suplex on Ibushi, right on his head. Jericho then was caught in between Takeshita and Ospreay. Jericho moved. Triangle dropkick on Takeshita. Hurricane Run on Ospreay. Tope Con Hero by Omega on Ospreay and Takeshita. Flying everywhere back and forth. Spanish Fly by Guevara. Shooting Star press to the floor. Code Breaker by Jericho. Ospreay saved it. Ospreay and Omega went at it, obviously teasing what is to come at Wrestle Kingdom next year. Snapdragon suplex on Ospreay. We had a snap cutter, power bomb on Ibushi, big knee by Takeshita on Kenny, code breaker by Sammy on Jericho. Jericho kicked out at 1. Jericho was firing himself up. He was punching and chopping all 3 guys. Sammy then got punched by Ibushi. Ospreay took a big punch by Ibushi. Takeshita and Ibushi face to face. We had them going blow for blow. Big lariat by Takeshita. Big lariat by Ibushi. Double knee and a kick by the Golden Lovers on Ospreay. Double crossbody by Guevara. Ospreay then took out Omega with the Sky Twister press on Ibushi and Omega. Judas effect on Ospreay. Jericho with a Hurricane Rana off the top, but Jericho did not get the win because Ospreay very smartly had Aubrey Edwards tied up. Jericho then was hit with a bat right in the head by Don Callis. Sammy Guevara pinned Jericho to get the win, and Jericho continues to give back to the business, putting over younger talent as Jericho loses to Sammy Guevara and the Don Callis family. I'm really, really enjoying what Don Callis is doing. And the Don Callis family, they're establishing themselves as quite the faction, a faction to be taken seriously, actually. I realize that Ospreay really isn't there full time, but what he's doing with Sammy and Takeshita, Don Callis, that is, he is really elevating them up tenfold, especially Takeshita. Sammy was already being elevated. He's already a guy that they've had full investment in, but Takeshita, man, Takeshita's another one. You got Swerve, you got Starks. Takeshita's up there with the breakout stars this year. It's Takeshita, Swerve, Starks, Sky Blue, and Willow Nightingale. Those 5 individuals have really broken out of their shells, and they've become some really nice homegrown stars that are going to lead the company into the future. Really, really, really good stuff. And I'm loving what they're doing with Don Callis and his group of minions. Should be fun. And I can see Sammy and Jericho probably in an unsanctioned match, and maybe Kota Ibushi and Konosuke Takeshita probably at Full Gear. I think that would be great. So let me hear what you think, because we only got 2 more matches to dissect after this, and then we're going to wrap it up. We've been going for a while. I'm sure that a lot of people are looking to get out of here. Shout out to Kratos, by the way. Thank you very much for stopping by.
It was a great match. The feud between Jericho and Omega that they had when AEW first started is still pretty fresh in my mind. So seeing them actually being on the same team last night was kind of wild. I was like, wow, I never would have thought this soon we'd see Omega and Jericho, teaming together for something, which was kind of cool. Great match. I go back again though. I love Takeshita. I didn't realize he's as big of a human being as he actually is, especially who was he in there with? Oh, when he was in there with Ibushi last night, and I'm going, my God, he looks massive standing next to Kota Ibushi. But everybody, if you're familiar with Kota Ibushi at all, you know his history and his more recent neck injury history. And them released German suplexes to him last night made me cringe. Because he got folded like an accordion on 2 separate occasions with them released German suplexes by Takeshita, and it was I don't know. Like, I'm with you. They got to go back to the drawing board and maybe change how they release. They do the release on the move. How the Kota Ibushi is not a Nick Wayne though. He's been around for a long time and he knows how to take bumps. And I felt like Takeshita kind of manhandled him a little bit when he did them Germans, the release ones anyway. So I just fear for guys' safety in that regard. But aside from that, that match was. I kept expecting the crowd to, like, okay, the crowd's certainly going to be quieter for this match. There's no way that they can keep their energy up, and the crowd was absolutely insane for this match. The Pacific Northwest, I will say, in terms of pro wrestling, I feel like when you've got somebody from the Attitude Era come into town, the Pacific Northwest people are still love them some Attitude Era talent, and Jericho was so over last night in that audience. It's just crazy to me that he can get pops and chants for Jericho that loud all these years later, man. It's a testament to you've really got to put Jericho, like, he's got to be in the conversation. Like, I know Mount Rushmore only has 4 faces, but ever since when he switched over to AEW and the run that he's had and what he's been doing and helping the company get off the ground, other talent get over, the work that he's put in as champion for the company, you got to add a 5th face to the Mount Rushmore, in my opinion, and you got to stick Jericho up there.
It's going to be a fun one. It's going to be a fun one, to say the least, and I'm very, very, very interested in seeing what Sammy and Jericho produce going into the future, and I'm very, very interested in seeing what Takeshita and Ibushi do as well. Moving on here, we had ourselves the AEW World Tag Team titles on the line, FTR and Aussie Open. It was a part of me that really wanted Aussie Open to win, but I had FTR just because of the fact that FTR right now, dude, FTR is the tag team of the year. FTR is the tag team of the year once again, 2 years in a row. 2 years in a row, FTR have been absolutely killing it as the tag team champions, whether it be against Bullet Club Gold, the Bucks, whether it be against Big Bill and Brian Cage, or Better Than You, Baby. Hell, Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. They had a very good match with them back at Double or Nothing. Very, very, very good stuff, to say the least, from FTR. And to be quite honest with you, I was not ready for FTR to lose the tag team titles, although I desperately wanted to see Aussie Open win because I am high on Aussie Open. But another great match, another great tag team match. Really nothing more to say regarding this. The only thing that was the down portion of this match was the botched Shatter Machine on Aussie Open's part, which that was just a mistiming issue. But outside of that, match was great. Davis and Fletcher isolated Dax early on. All 4 men were in the ring, and they hit the big collider where Aussie Open take their opponents and they collide them against each other. We had an assisted powerbomb by Aussie Open. Cash kicked out. Wheeler fought back. Avalanche back superplex by Cash. Tag to Dax. He lit up Fletcher, and Fletcher answered back. Clothesline after clothesline. Big lariat. Dax would not go down. Davis would not go down as Dax finally clotheslined him. Delivered a German suplex barrage on Fletcher. Dax then with a rolling elbow. Diving headbutt missed. Aussie Open then with the Aussie Arrow. Dax kicked out. Slingshot Liger Bomb. Fletcher kicked out. Aussie Open then. I've never seen this in my life before. So normally some people do a Doomsday device. Some people do a clothesline. Some people do a crossbody. Some people do. I think I've seen the Creed brothers. They do a Brutus Ball and an electric chair. So there's different variations of a Doomsday device. Never in my life have I ever seen a Claymore kick off the top rope into a Doomsday device. And Cash Wheeler, I thought he fucking broke or tore something when he crashed down. Aussie Open with a Claymore Doomsday device. I thought that Cash was going to lose right there. Cash kicked out. Fletcher was then taken down. FTR with the superplex splash combination. I believe that's where Davis broke his wrist. Then we had Kyle Fletcher flying off the top with a crossbody onto Dax Harwood into the pile. Aussie Open then with a lariat sandwich on both men. Coriolis was blocked. Shadow Machine, which they didn't get all of it. It didn't look good whatsoever. Davis, they did the flapjack portion, but Fletcher was off in his timing. Regardless of that, I'm glad that they didn't cover after that. We had the Coriolis connecting. We were going to have new champions, but Dax saved. Glad that wasn't the end. Crowd was chanting, "This is awesome." Dax and Cash with a spike pile driver on the apron to Mark Davis. Tope Suicida by Kyle Fletcher. In the ring, FTR with a super Shatter Machine, similar to what they did to Enzo Amore back at NXT TakeOver London towards the end of 2015. Those are the vibes that I got from it. And my God, dude, Fletcher fucking flew. Fletcher fucking flew right into the knees of Cash Wheeler. Absolutely fucking excellent. It looked great. FTR retain. Another great match. FTR, easily the tag team of the year, bar none. And FTR right now, dude, if this is the last 4 years of FTR wrestling in the ring, dude, they've had themselves one hell of an AEW World Tag Team title run. They're actually giving the Bucks a run for their money, because the Bucks, to me, were probably the best AEW World Tag Team champions, just based on how many great matches they put on back during 2021. Whether it be the cage match against the Lucha Bros, the match against Moxley and Kingston, Jurassic Express, SCU, Death Triangle, Top Flight, or Santana and Ortiz, Jericho and MJF, their tag team title reign was great. So FTR, they're actually making a run for their money as probably the best AEW World Tag Team champions that we've ever had. Very, very happy that they are on this run, and they killed it. Them and Aussie Open, they killed it. And we're getting FTR and the Bucks 4, more likely than not, on Title Tuesday.
Sorry, I just had to plug my phone in because I just looked up at the battery, and my phone is a couple years old now, so the battery's dying faster than when I first got it.
Plug that phone in, man. There you go.
Yeah, it's plugged in. I got it. FTR, man. I don't know. I'm trying to think of like how I want to talk about them, and there's just. I think I will always see FTR now, especially after the epic trilogy that they had with the Briscoes last year, because of the tragedy and what happened with Jay. I think my personal attachment to the Briscoes has now shifted to FTR, because that was the Briscoes' last opponents in the ring, and the way that they've had them titles and the matches that they keep putting on. I told my buddy last night, I'm to the point where I don't even want to see another team beat FTR for those titles. FTR is one of the greatest tag teams of all time. And I've been watching wrestling for almost 4 decades. So, I've seen a lot of, I love tag team wrestling. I think tag team wrestling has probably always been my favorite. And FTR is legitimately one of the greatest to ever step foot in the ring, and they just continue to show that no matter who they go into the ring with, no matter how many times they go have a feud with the same team multiple times, it doesn't matter what they do. If they're in that ring, they're going to make whoever they're in there with look better. But yeah, I can't say enough good things about FTR and this run that they've had. I can't, even to well-established teams like the Bucks and I'm drawing blanks off the top of my head right now, but the legitimate tag teams, like, I just don't see anybody taking them titles from them. I really don't.
I thought it was going to be Aussie Open, but then they kind of rushed the match.
Hey, that top rope shatter machine is fucking awesome. That's all I know.
Dude, you couldn't pay me enough money to take that move.
No. That the impact, like the visualization of that move coming off the top rope, and when it hits, is just like, my God, man. It's just they're so good. There's just not. It's hard to talk about FTR to people. You just have to go watch them to understand. You know what I mean? They're one of them types of talent where it's got to be seen to be believed. You know.
I actually had the Aussie Open FTR match penciled in for Full Gear, but they gave it to us at WrestleDream. Dude, I have no idea who the fuck's going to beat him. The only other team that I can honestly see him beating is if Edge and Christian get back together. We get Edge and Christian versus FTR. I mean, that would be a fantastic match. Jurassic Express, I believe, is probably going to get back together. Jack Perry is due back any day now after his suspension. He's been suspended for about 5 weeks now. I'm not sure how long his suspension is going to last after what happened at All In, but I'll keep you updated on that. I got to do some more research on that. I really don't know who else there is. Maybe the Kingdom. I think the Kingdom could do it because if anything, I honestly believe that Adam Cole, he's going to form a faction with the Kingdom, Roderick Strong, and a returning Kyle O'Reilly, and MJF's going to have no choice but to recruit the Pinnacle. And the Pinnacle is ultimately going to be MJF's answer to Adam Cole and his faction. And I believe that they trademarked the term Paragon. So if they want to, they could call their faction the Paragon. And if anything, the Kingdom could take the Ring of Honor World Tag Team titles from Better Than You, Baby. They could be the Ring of Honor World Tag Team champions. And then you have the Kingdom. They could be the AEW World Tag Team champions as well and kind of do what FTR did. And MJF is kind of fighting an uphill battle with the Pinnacle, trying to take down Adam Cole's faction. That could result in a blood and guts match. That outside of that, I don't really know who else. I really do hope it's not the Bucks. I really do hope that it's we're not going to have to go through that because they really don't need it. They just won the Ring of Honor World 6-Man Tag Team Championships. I don't think that that's lasting long either. I think that they're going to drop those titles to the Dark Order probably at the next Ring of Honor pay-per-view because Tony Khan did said that they're going to be on Honor Club. So, main event. And here's another thing. Another thing that I want to mention, and this goes back to what we talked about at the beginning of the stream with MJF. People complaining about MJF not defending the World Championship. Meanwhile, it opens up the door for new talent to main event the shows, like an Orange Cassidy, who had a great match with Jon Moxley back at All Out and was elevated tenfold because of Jon Moxley. And now we get Christian Cage and Darby Allin for the TNT Championship. And Darby Allin got his first ever pay-per-view main event. Why would you complain about that? And on top of that, it gives a great showcase to the mid-card championships. The International Championship felt very important on that night. And now the TNT Championship feels like it's getting back to where it needed to be when Darby was initially holding it and when Miro was initially holding it. I mean, it's perfect. And this was a great main event.
This main event was
hard to watch at some points.
Well, at one point they had me convinced that Edge wasn't, or Adam Copeland wasn't showing up. And then once the match ended, because Nick Wayne came back out, right? So when Nick Wayne comes out, I'm thinking, okay, well, they're not going to debut Adam Copeland now because usually you don't see multiple interferences in a match from different people. So when Nick Wayne came out, I was kind of like, oh, they're going to say that's what they're doing. They're saving Adam Copeland. And then as it kept going, then once the match ended and then it wasn't over and they start Christian's pulling the ring mat off and exposing the 2x4s and they're continuing to put this, this beat down on Darby. Then it became apparent once they set up that concerto spot. I'm like, I mean, if this isn't a more perfect opportunity, there's never going to be a more perfect time to debut Adam Copeland than this moment right here. So if you don't do it tonight, I don't know what you're waiting for. And then the lights go out. And as soon as the lights go out, I got goosebumps on my arms right now talking about it. My hair just stood up. And then my buddy's going, because the lights are off for a good minute. 30 seconds, whatever. And my buddy's going, is it going to be Edge? Like, and then they show the car. And I don't know, I didn't see anybody catch this last night. Nobody talked about it, and I didn't see anybody type about it. But in that vignette, after you hear the car revving up and then it's driving through the streets of Seattle or whatever, they go to a top-down view of the street, and it's like the car's driving, and you can see the road is moving in the shot, and in words painted on the street said "rated R." And I don't know if anybody caught that. Yeah, and so when it said rated R and the car drove over it, and I was like, no way they fucking did it. And then you get to hear in the post show media scrum, Adam Copeland talks a little bit about how him and Darby filmed the vignette like 2 days ago when he got to Seattle. And that was their first time meeting each other and whatnot. And it was just perfect, man. It was absolutely perfect. The whole story, the whole match, how they fit debuting Adam Copeland into all that. It was flawlessly executed, in my opinion.
Fantastic stuff, man. And Darby Allin and Christian Cage, 2 out of 3 falls match for the TNT Championship. I don't know about you, man, but I would probably have to say this was the greatest TNT Championship match in the history of that title. Because I cannot remember a TNT title match this good. The Wardlow Christian Cage match, that was a good ladder match. We did have Wardlow Bryan Cage was very good. Cody Rhodes and Brody Lee dog collar match was very, very good. Miro and Darby Allin and Miro and Sammy was very good. Cody and Sammy in the ladder match was very good. That was an excellent match. Probably one of the best matches in the history of AEW, period, was that ladder match. And one of Sammy's best matches, period. But, dude, just the emotion and the crowd and just everything that went into this, I was literally on the edge of my seat. I wanted Darby to win this.
At this point in the show, we've had Danielson and Swerve winning. So when this match, they start to do the intros, my 2 thoughts are, is Adam Copeland really showing up tonight? And my mindset had started to switch at this point, because I'm like, there's no way all 3 Seattle guys are winning. So I didn't necessarily even think at the beginning that Darby Allin was going to win the match, and I was okay with it, especially like I was telling my buddies, Adam has to debut, because if he doesn't, then I don't know how I feel about Darby Allin potentially losing this match. That being said, also, the media scrum last night was, I'm not joking, it was about as long as the pay-per-view was. It went well over 3.5 hours long. But if you find it, Christian's portion of the media scrum might have been my favorite of all the interviews, him and Swerve. For one, he absolutely verbally annihilates Bryan Alvarez. Oh my God, MJF started the media show scrum and started off by burying Bryan Alvarez. And then Christian Cage towards the end of the media scrum takes it a whole nother level and absolutely shits on Bryan Alvarez. I was like, oh God, this is like, yikes. Yeah, it was, because I didn't know if he was actually telling
What did he do?
right. So, and Bryan Danielson, obviously from being from the Pacific Northwest, knows Bryan Alvarez, and they kind of have a cool little back and forth at one point. But if you're going to watch anybody in terms of facilitating the storyline that's going on with their character, I hope you get 5 minutes, 10 minutes of free time. I really want you to see Christian Cage's portion of the media scrum, because he was subliminally firing shots at MJF. And I don't know if it was kayfabe. I don't know if there's some backstage stuff between them two, but Christian Cage's literal words out of his mouth were, "I am the biggest star in this company. I've made the he's like, I made the TNT championship, and there's not a more prestigious title in the company. And I felt like those were all directed at MJF. So
Dude, if we get Christian and MJF, you could take my money.
Man, if that's where they're going, I felt like based on Christian Cage being the end of they kind of bookended the media scrum, and I just felt like subliminally there's little seeds being planted, especially after what Christian Cage said last night. It was a epic TNT championship match. It was an epic main event. I couldn't believe that that's Darby's first pay-per-view main event. The spot that he's got. I hope he never gets body slammed from the top of the apron onto steel stairs back first ever again.
We're gonna talk about that.
The man is such a psychopath that he literally comes down to the ring and is slapping his skateboard against the post so hard that it ricochets, hits him in the cheek, and cuts himself open before the match even starts. He's got blood dripping all out of his face. Also, when you get to the media scrum and Darby Allin, he was in the middle. He kind of was in the middle of the pack on the media scrum. But to hear him talking and kind of give a little insight as to his journey in pro wrestling and where he's at now, you could hear the passion. You could hear the how grateful he was to be in the spot that he's in. So many things about that main event, man, culminated into one. It just, when there's little tidbits here and there and they fuse them all together into one big thing, and that's what we get out of it as a main event like that, there's literally nothing there's nothing anybody could say about that match negatively. There's just literally nothing. I mean, it maybe the spots that Darby Allin takes. He said in the media scrum, he's literally, he showed up in a sling. I think he legitimately might be injured. And
have a good break.
Obviously, so me being on the West Coast, I'm 3 hours behind you. So yeah, I'm trying to think.
5 p.m. like my time. So I'm gonna have to get home after this because I gotta take a shower and dinner. I gotta take my notes for Raw.
Yeah, we
And then this week is billing week at my job, so fuck me, I guess.
I think it was about the 3:30 a.m. East Coast hour around that time period. And Darby Allin, it's well after midnight here, and he was talking to Tony. He comes walking up, and Tony Khan's like, "Oh, he's like, it's good to see you. I'm surprised you're still around." And he was like, "Yeah." He was like, "I got to get up early in the morning because today he was meeting with somebody in Seattle. He's planning an excursion with a team of people to climb Mount Everest." Darby Allin,
dude. I think the guy's legitimately insane.
This guy he's taking bumps. I mean, he's got a cut on his face. His arm is in a sling. I'm thinking his back and his ribs. There's no way you can land that steel spot that he took 2 bumps on, that steel stair spot, and it not legitimately hurt, or I don't know. And then I'm like, and he's waking up like in 3 hours to go have a meeting about climbing Mount Everest. I'm like, this guy he's a different breed, that Darby Allin. I don't care. You can say whatever about his size, his look. You can find little things to nitpick about him, but he's got a pain tolerance unlike any other pro wrestler I think I've ever seen.
Dude, he's gonna be a world champion one of these days. I really do hope that they give him a good solid run with it. So Christian, he got a little too cocky early on in this match. Darby then pulled the turtleneck over his face, jackknife cover, and he gets the first fall. So right out of the gate, it is 1-0 Darby. Christian then went over to Nick Wayne's mother, and dude, is that really his mother? Holy, okay. I'm sorry, dude, but holy fuck.
2 things. When they first showed her, when Nick Wayne and Luchasaurus were on the pre-show, I'm not joking when I say this. I've seen that woman's face somewhere else outside of pro wrestling before. to the point where I was telling my buddy, is that his real mother? Is this like a stand-in? Like, I'm pretty sure that woman's an actress. I'm going to do some research later on into it, but I'm pretty sure I've seen her on some other televised program before last night. There was just an aura about her. I was like, there's no way this is his real mother. There's no way. She's got to be an actress of some type. She really does.
Dude, if that's his real mother, my God. I'm going to keep it PG right here. So Christian Cage tried to take advantage. Code Red by Darby for a 2. Springboard crossbody for a 2. Christian then tossed Darby out of the ring and into the guardrail. Nick Wayne's mom then threw a drink in Christian's face. Tope suicida by Darby. Coffin drop to the floor. Coffin drop in the ring, but Christian got the knees up. Christian then sent Darby off the apron into the announce table. There were ring steps set up at ringside. Christian then suplexed Darby onto the steps. He didn't get all of it, and then Christian said, "Fuck this. He hasn't gotten enough damage." He body slams Darby off the apron, and Darby Allin's spine and arm legitimately hit the edge of the ring steps. And I swear to God, I did not know how he got up after that. I legitimately thought his spine was cracked. I legit thought his spine was cracked. His arm was cracked. Everything about him was cracked. This guy has the durability of a fucking diamond. I swear to God. This guy cannot be penetrated. I don't know how he handles the pain that he deals with. So Darby could not get back in the ring, and he won via countout. Did Christian. So he tied the score up 1-1. So at this point, Christian starts untying the knots that had the ring mat on the ring, untied the knots, and exposed the wooden mat as Darby was being carried away on a gurney. Christian Cage, at 50 years old, like a fucking maniac, I don't know how Christian Cage is still in this good a shape. Christian Cage dives off the top rope as if he's fucking Jeff Hardy with a frog splash onto Darby, onto the gurney. Crowd is chanting, holy shit. So then Christian Cage throws Darby back into the ring. Christian Cage was then given chance of "you sick fuck." Darby Allin and Christian Cage back into the ring. Darby caught a kill switch on the exposed wood. I thought that was it. Darby kicked out. Christian missed the spear. Christian with a scorpion deathlock. It was in deep, but Darby got to the ropes. Crowd was chanting, "Let's go, Darby." Darby then raked the eyes. Scorpion death drop on the exposed wood. Coffin drop connects. I thought that was going to be it. 1, 2. Christian Cage kicked out. Darby was then crotched on the top turnbuckle. Christian and Darby were up top. Christian Cage with a sunset flip powerbomb to Darby on the exposed wood. Christian then went for the spear, accidentally struck Bryce Remsburg. He got the TNT title. All of a sudden, Nick Wayne came out, took the title. He stood face to face with Darby. Darby Allin looked like he was in a good position, and Nick Wayne said, "This was for me, my mom," and then out of nowhere, to a thunderous, like a thunderous gasp, a shock, Nick Wayne clocks Darby Allin with the TNT Championship. I predicted that Nick Wayne was going to turn. I didn't think he was going to be here. I thought that Nick Wayne was going to help Luchasaurus retain the TNT title back on Collision a couple weeks ago. To be quite honest with you, I'm still a little pissed off that Luchasaurus is not the TNT champion anymore, because the appeal here is Christian holding the title, but Luchasaurus is the actual champion. That's what made it funny, but now it's not funny anymore. But regardless, I cannot take away from what Christian Cage did in this match with Darby Allin. So Nick Wayne clonks Darby with the TNT title right in the face. 1, 2, 3. The referee comes to, makes the count, and Nick Wayne then embraces Christian Cage after what was perhaps the greatest TNT championship match in the history of that title. Out came Luchasaurus, and out came Sting as well. Sting tried to fight back, but they swarmed Sting. Christian then brought out some chairs. They put Sting in position for a concerto. All of a sudden, the lights went out. A little vignette came up on the screen of our feature presentation and a man driving a car through Seattle Climate Pledge Arena. All of a sudden, the lights come back on and you hear a voiceover go, "You think you know me." And then we hear Metalingus,
I got chills.
Metalingus by Alter Bridge. On this day, I see clearly everything has come to life. Better place and a broken dream, and we'll leave it all behind. Through the smoke emerges Adam Copeland, and I swear to God, you would have thought that they were in a full-blown fucking stadium with how loud that pop was in the Climate Pledge Arena. The crowd absolutely exploded. It was fucking bone-chilling. Absolutely bone-chilling. Edge walked to the ring. Crowd was chanting, "Holy shit." Adam Copeland then took the chair. Sting was in position. Adam Cole whacks Nick Wayne. Spear to Luchasaurus on the chair. Spear to Nick Wayne. And he shook Darby Allin's hand. He shook Sting's hand. And it looks like, if my calculations are correct, I don't think we've ever gotten a proper, and I mean a proper, Edge versus Christian feud. And if this is the gateway to that, oh my God! Like, we've seen all these brothers feud. We've seen the Hardys feud. We're gonna see the Usos feud. How many other brothers? We've seen Penta and Rey Fenix feud. I don't think we've ever seen an Edge and Christian, who are basically brothers. I don't think we've ever seen them feud. I think this would be the first time ever that we're gonna see a legit Edge and Christian feud. Dude, absolute goosebumps, and easily the best AEW debut since when Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole came in over 2 years ago at All Out. Absolutely amazing.
You're not even gonna throw CM Punk's debut in there?
I said since Bryan and Adam Cole. Punk was before them.
Oh, was it?
Yes, Punk was before Bryan and Cole. Cole and Bryan came legit two weeks after Punk.
Oh, that's right. I totally forgot about that.
That's why I'm going based off that.
Gotcha.
But listen, Punk's debut was that was probably one of my favorite moments of all time. That was probably one of the greatest moments in pro wrestling's history. But yeah, it's a shame how it ended. But
however, I'll say this: the amount of matches that got left on the table because of Punk ending up getting fired from the company, the stuff that we were also happy that we were potentially going to see with Punk being back and all the dream matches, getting Adam Copeland in the company, not a bad replacement. Not a bad replacement, because we've got a whole world of new, never before seen dream matches coming our way. And Adam Copeland's not going to be the same type of backstage persona and ego that Phil Brooks is. Like,
dude,
Adam Copeland's
dude. Edge is legit one of the most genuine individuals to come out of the wrestling world. Like Vince Russo always says, "Oh, you can never go into the wrestling world and come out a decent guy." Look at Edge. No one has an issue with Edge. Absolutely nobody.
That's because Edge wasn't.
Christian's a valuable asset too.
That's because Edge wasn't a decent guy early on in his career, right?
Well, at least he learned his lesson. At least he's learned his lesson. But fantastic stuff. Absolutely bone-chilling. And if this was a new era for AEW, man, the rated R era is going to be one hell of a fucking era. And on top of that, they got Mercedes Moné coming in any day now. So you want to talk about, bringing in some game changers. Those are some game changers. And the fact that they could get on HBO Max soon, I think that we could be looking at the AEW of old. Like, we could be looking at 2021 AEW coming back to us sooner rather than later, because this last month for AEW with All In, All Out, Grand Slam, and then WrestleDream, dude, they've been firing on all fucking cylinders as of lately. They're really hitting all the right strides that they possibly can. And Title Tuesday looks pretty damn good.
Tony Khan also said on the Scrum last night that I think Rocky Romero was there sitting with him. He mentioned Inoki's family was there.
Yes.
And he said that he spoke with Inoki's family. They had given him I guess Inoki used to wear a red scarf of some type. His family gave that to Tony Khan, and Tony Khan said they had a little discussion and that WrestleDream will be happening next year. So I was excited.
I'm glad. I think that's a very, very, very solid addition to the pay-per-view calendar. And
Same.
if you're asking me, if there's one thing that I do want them to do, though, if they can't get HBO Max by next year, I would definitely move All Out to January. It could still be in Chicago, but I would move that to January. If not, I mean, you got Revolution in March. You got Double or Nothing in May, Forbidden Door June, All In August, All Out September, WrestleDream October, Full Gear in November. And then if you want to do a January show, I don't know, maybe you can throw in a Fyter Fest in there, or maybe a Fight for the Fallen, something along those lines. But I think that that's a decent pay-per-view schedule for AEW. If you can do 8 pay-per-views a year, I wouldn't mind that at all.
As long as All In and All Out aren't a week apart.
Listen, I don't mind them being a week apart, but paying $50 for them both within the same week, that's a little bit of overkill. If it's on HBO Max, I have no problem with it because, dude, All In and All Out, I can't remember the last time we saw a back-to-back pay-per-view like duo like that was that good. Like All In and All Out, you can put those two in contention for pay-per-view of the year. Those two shows were fantastic. But
yeah,
dude,
the main event was special, man. Anytime that there's a moment like that in pro wrestling when a well-established guy goes to the other side and they have and they pull off the debut in that fashion, that crowd was building, and I was really surprised by the crowd because a lot of times, dude, especially here on Seattle's never missed. Anytime they do a show in Seattle and it's televised, the Seattle crowd always brings it. But I felt like there's a lot of times, like when they go to California, sometimes the crowd's really up. Sometimes the crowd is asleep with their thumbs in their ass.
Yeah, I know, because it felt that way for Super Card of Honor. I feel like that's what you're referring to because that was a very good pay-per-view. That was very, very good, and that arena was actually more filled than the New Jersey show a couple of weeks ago, or not a couple weeks, a couple months ago. But yet the crowd in New Jersey was a hell of a lot more lively for that show.
And the crowd, there was more people in that crowd than was at WrestleDream last night.
Yeah.
And that crowd was quiet, man. And a lot of times in Portland, too, the televised shows, sometimes the crowd will come off on TV as bonkers, and then sometimes it's like you feel like you can hear a pin drop. So as these matches were happening, I'm thinking, I told my buddy, if Adam Copeland is going to debut tonight, the roof is going to come off of this joint because the crowd was already on fire when as soon as MJF's music hit, the crowd lost their shit. And it just kept building and kept building. And I was like, man, there's not really been a match where the crowd was like, you significantly could feel everybody get up and like go to the bathroom. Like you were used to getting at least one match per show, especially in WWE. There's always the quote unquote piss break match. And I'm thinking there's been so much that's happened on this show. There's like, are they really going to throw Edge in here on top of it? Like, I couldn't even fathom it. And then when they set up that concerto spot, first of all, the spots that guys were taking on the hardwood boards was crazy. That spot that Nick Wayne took, was it Nick Wayne or was it Sting? Somebody took a bump on them boards and the sound it made was absolutely gnarly.
Oh, dude, it was rough, man. It was pretty rough at some portions of this match, but holy shit, man. WrestleDream,
it was great.
Incredible shit.
A show for sure. A show.
Dude, I'm looking forward to the next pay-per-view already. I'm actually looking forward to another Ring of Honor show because I actually want to see what they do for the Ring of Honor show because if MJF's going to be on the show and the Hung Bucks are going to be on the show and you got Athena in there, of course. I'm interested to see what they do then.
You're correct, by the way.
What?
Adam Cole, you're correct, by the way. In my opinion, when you're talking about the direction that they're going with Adam Cole, there's no, what I almost think is when CM Punk did the stupid crowd dive and hurt his foot, broke his foot, whatever, because he was still the champion that hadn't gotten pinned and hadn't lost the title, but then MJF is the new champion. I felt like the original direction was going to be MJF versus CM Punk again. And I feel like they're just taking what the circumstances of CM Punk's foot injury. I think that they just shifted that whole storyline off onto Adam Cole. I could totally believe that at some point CM Punk was going to be the one in that spot where Adam Cole is now, and was going to be the one stealing the devil mask, and everybody's going to think it's MJF, and then haha, surprise, it's CM Punk. I just think that, well, shit with CM Punk fell out, so let's do it with Adam Cole. And it's working to
full gear. It was going to be Punk and MJF unification match, but they swapped them out for Jay White, which I don't have a problem with. Jay White's great.
It's working to a T. I just find it hard to believe that when he came off of that ramp, when he jumped down, it was only about a foot or two. I mean, it wasn't very, if even that high. He just kind of stepped up
with his foot. That's where it came into play, which it was a stupid thing, which should have never happened. But look, we can't really harp on that any more than we already have.
I just feel like to use the terminology that he did and say that his ankle exploded, that's when I was like, okay, this is a work for sure. And then when you see MJF's mask hanging up on Adam Cole's side of the locker room behind Adam Cole,
I saw it.
It's going to be Adam Cole.
I thought to myself, dude, Adam Cole does not look somber enough for being legit injured.
He is legit. He's setting MJF up to. I think he's already aligned himself with Roddy and the Kingdom, and we're just. The next number of weeks is just watching all this stuff play out. I think it's legitimately going to be Adam Cole, the one behind the mask. Everybody's saying Dolph Ziggler, this and that. I'm like, no, Dolph Ziggler has a 90-day no compete. So they're not going to waste 3 months and stall the storyline for 3 months just to have it be Ziggler 3 months from now. It's got to happen before that. So I think it's going to be Adam Cole behind the mask, and the one that's going to turn on MJF for sure.
Dude, I'm very much looking forward to that. It's going to be fun. But, dude, that was an excellent show.
It was
very,
great.
very happy you took the time to come on here and talk about it with me. Always a pleasure having you on. But, ladies and gentlemen, holy shit, 3.5 hours. I got to get home. I got to get myself in gear because I got to eat dinner. Probably going to get shit from my family already. Oh, my God, you took 3.5 hours for a fucking stream. I don't care. Whatever it is. It's all to boost up these watch hours because, let's be real here. If the IWC didn't have me going for it, it would have absolutely nothing going for it. But ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up this edition of The Rewind. Thank you very much for coming on in. Thank you to James Punaseca. And I see you, James Punaseca. You got your T-shirt and wristband. Although, I see someone in this stream right here that really should have a T-shirt. But now he's...
Who?
Just in here
I got a wristband.
Yeah, you got a wristband. But you got to get the
I have a T-shirt. If somebody would just get Cash App, it's not that hard to download the app and make an account. It takes about 2 seconds.
I'd say the same thing about you for Venmo. Anyway,
I've explained about Venmo.
No. Anyway, thank you, HooliGrim. You were fantastic.
Thank you, sir.
As always. I think that this is probably one of our best ones. I even like for Ring of Honor, it was all right, but I think that
I dropped the ball on that though because I didn't get to see that show because I was relying on modern day technology for that one, whereas normally I would purchase the pay-per-view and just watch it no problem. I was trying to go a different route, I'll say that much, and the apparatus I was using, the site I was on was faulty to a T. I'll say that much. So that was my bad for that last time I was on
pay-per-view for the next Ring of Honor show that we do. But regardless, man, thank you very much for coming on. It's always a pleasure. One more time, where can everyone find you on social media?
I am on Twitter at WHO_. LA_GRIM. Shout out to Sarah Hapka and whoever else stopped by. I know everybody was excited for today that I talked to yesterday. So because I can't see the chat while I'm on my phone doing this, whoever came by, shout out to you guys. Thank you.
You guys are fantastic from top to bottom. Do not forget, like, comment, subscribe. Check out all the links in the description. We got the ISPW vlog for ISPW 25 coming to you guys on Wednesday. Rundown for Fastlane on Thursday. Rewind for Fastlane on Sunday. And World of Wrestling episode number 2. World of Wrestling episode number 2 on October 12th, Thursday. It's going to be fun. Until then, I am DJ Storms. This has been The Rewind. But before we get out of here, HooliGrim, you know what to tell him. Who runs the IWC?
None other than DJ motherfucking Storms.
You're damn right, baby. Who but DJ motherfucking Storms? And don't you ever forget it.
Cause we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution.